Hello, hello. Happy Friday. I am feeling pretty good. Hey, Sinistello. So today, oh, that didn't work. Adam is planning to do some game design today. He knows the broad strokes of what he of the games he wants to make. So today will be partially about filling in those details and partially about coming up with new game ideas. That was supposed to have asterisks around it. There you go. Woke up before 8 a.m. today. Wow, nice. Yeah, I woke up a little earlier than normal too. And then I had my arm just off to my side on the bed, and Abby came and sat like right here and put her head here. It was adorable. Anyway, we got some new updates here. Let me talk about some of these. One of them is Quickie Joe made an emote. Then I had to stay in bed. Well, I was planning on staying in bed for that time anyway. Hey, Galaxy Inferno. Yeah, so we now have Adam Wave. Here's the zoomed in view. I like it. It's nice to have a stuck in a broken tutorial emote. I also put a very quick website online. I had almost nothing to do with this. I made some improvements, but it was just AI making this. I just wanted something to be at exautonymous.com. I own the domain. This just needs to point to the games that we have. It does now. Great. This doesn't look fantastic or anything. I'm probably not going to put any more work into this. And yeah, it's responsive. So on mobile, it would look like this. But yep, that's it. I guess the only other work is once this is no longer in development, once it's released, I can put a released banner there. But yeah. I like the status banners. Yeah, that was one of the few things I actually told it to do. Well, I guess I told it to do pretty much everything here. But yeah, I'm happy with this. It's good. That's all we need. All right, then I take notes. You've all seen this before, but I take notes with timestamps a lot of the time. So when someone's playing a game, I'll write like they started, and then 08 31 a.m. they're changing their colors or something like that, and dot dot dot, and then some other time and they beat the game. So I have these notes, but it's hard to pay attention to someone playing the game and also process like, okay, how long is it taking them? Is this the right amount of time? So I had AI go through those notes and write down how long each game took. So you can see those stats here. And the reason I wanted to do this is to figure out how long the demo would be, and also to eventually position games that are of different lengths next to each other. So the platformer and the farming game will be in the demo. And then I wanted to pick one other game. I think it's gonna be the Dungeon Racer just for how much fun it is. And that would give a total of about 30 to 35 minutes of playtime for people playing the demo. I think that is more than enough. Like a 30-minute demo for a game that might be like 3 hours long, I think, yeah, is pretty generous. So I want to put this somewhere in the design doc, I guess. Hey, Manati Pine. Takes the most time when you can just exit it immediately. Yeah. Yeah, so Leaf accidentally exited it. He played back when you just walked into the portal and you left. Well, you didn't leave. You walked into the portal and it popped up a confirmation dialogue. But he said that was unexpected. The way that everything else in this game works is you move close to something and it puts a little interaction. Wait a second. Hold on. I'm distracting myself for a second to make sure that something works properly here. Let me just take a look. I'm waiting for the next chest to show up. There. Okay. Anyway, when you get close to something, it highlights what you're interacting with. So here it's got the item display. Here it's actually got the individual apples. So when he walked into the portal, he expected it to have an interaction thing. So when he got close, he pressed the confirm button and it just left because he accidentally confirmed the dialogue. So then I changed it. So now you have to press the button and then you can choose go from here. So he accidentally left. He said he probably would have played it for a little bit longer though. But my wife was not having it. She wanted to leave the game early. I wonder if she'd like it with the new UI changes, but it's one of those things where like you can never go back to your first time experiencing something. So maybe she's already got a tainted opinion of it. But yeah, everyone else played for a decent amount of time. I should probably speed it up a little bit. Maybe at the beginning, so it's a little bit faster. But yeah. Hey, TJ. All right, let's go write this stuff down. So demo, well, get a demo set up. It should have the third cutscene. Yeah, so I'll copy paste this. Hey, Chili. Hey, retired Android. Thought I went back in time and it's a Skeleseller stream. Was I looking at a Skeleseller thing? I was looking at the Exonomist site, I guess. Demo polish. Get a demo set up. Yeah, so this I'll put here. Okay, then I have an update for a specific person. Campbell Soup shared their game, and I played it, and I wanted to share with them. So I'll just leave this on the list until they're here. Okay, so we are going to do some game devs. Oh, also, I bought these Kenny assets. All of the Kenny assets are totally free, and I think they're all CC0. Yeah, I think they all are. So like you could use these in your games, not give any credit, not pay any money. But I felt weird doing that, and I wanted to chuck some money over to Kenny. It turns out they have an all-in-one pack. Where is that? Kenny all-in-one. Yeah, here. So I wanted to pay maybe like $3 or $5 because I used the input glyphs and I thought they were pretty helpful. This is $10 and it's literally every single asset they've ever made, and it's in one download. So I was like, you know what? Okay, fine. If we get like one more game out of these, that'd be great. You know, maybe we could make a mini golf game or something. I don't know. There's plenty of ideas that you could pretty easily figure out from this. But then, yeah, even that notwithstanding, I got all the input glyphs. We've got some other UI stuff we could use at some point. Maybe some sounds, maybe some fonts. Hang on one second. Abby's meowing. Come on, Abby. Okay. Oh, yes. You're correct. Retired Android. Sorry. I wasn't sure what the context was of that. Yes, it's the graphics from Skeleseller and the music, which I was not playing at the time. But yeah. So we still need to work on this world. I think we should have a PR for that today. Hey, Basharis. Yeah, there could be a kart racing game or something. So yeah, I'm happy with that. Oh, there are 2 pull requests. These are probably change loot boxes game area. Yeah, fix hair in 4th frame of idle animation. Whoa, look at that. Okay, hi cat. Hi. Okay. Architecture realm node makes it annoying to click select stuff because it blocks the whole scene. Oh yeah. Okay. Hello, Abby. You're being Magnetic Bind is saying hi. You're not gonna say hi back? Okay, fine. What a little jerk. Good cat. Okay, yeah, this looks good. I will probably merge this maybe over the weekend. And I gotta merge this too. This one's probably like dead simple to merge because I think it's literally just a frame change. But I'll still write this over here too. Merge this and then update art requests. All right, so yeah, game design. So we have these assets. I can now look through these. But I think the way I want to start today is by finalizing some of the design for Checkpoint 3 games. So let's just look through maybe from top to bottom and see if there's anything I'm missing. Retired Android says, hi, Abby. She's so happy. She was just fed. She's a nice relaxy cat now. All right, so this game uses these assets, and I had a great idea for this. And I am super happy with this. So the idea is you enter this game as a sidekick for the first time. So maybe you look like, well, we might need custom sprites. Quickie Joe's not gonna like that. Okay, well, anyway, you enter as sidekick. So maybe you look like this, but we make it clearer that you're a sidekick. And then you are going to have some like really basic platforming mechanics, but they're not going to work some of the time. And a lot of times it's going to like time skip forward. So you might try jumping over this and it just shifts you all of a sudden into like the graveyard or into the forest or jungle or whatever. And you're like, what's going on here? And it's to represent that sidekick is losing their agency. They're just not even like paying attention. They're becoming an NPC. And that's it. That's your first run through this game. It's just you eventually getting stuck there saying like, hey, lovely weather we're having. Then later you enter as player. And I was thinking of using the Archer graphics for that. So here, this one. So we'd have to retheme this. But anyway, you enter as player. And now it's like a Metroidvania. And you eventually find Sidekick. And you're like, hey, you look familiar. And they're like, lovely weather we're having. And you're like, is that you, Sidekick? And then they kind of like snap out of it for a bit. And yeah, you take them with you. Then you get the high jump boots, and it's like ultra turbo super high jump boots, and you launch yourself through a ceiling into space. So this is the ideal possible thing I could have come up with for this. I am very happy with it. I think it's going to be super cool to do. But yeah, imagine you're in a room like this and there's like a platform just out of your reach and you get the high jump boots and you're like, oh, I'll jump to that platform, right? And you just like rocket through the ceiling and destroy all the tiles there. Walk around the house meowing like crazy. Was there any obvious cause? Was it like food or lack of stimulation or something? Because Abby meows only when she wants to play or eat, pretty much. What is that magnetic find? Is it this? Rhythm-based dance combat. Oh. Is it one of these? Oh, I see. I see. Okay. So you go up through the world, but you have to dodge these spikes. So this I was intending to have just be like you're shooting through the ceiling and you just keep going and going and going until you're in space. So I do like this idea. And then you get into a spaceship. No, there is no spaceship. You're just floating in space. Wait a second though. Didn't I talk about how oh, you eventually get a spaceship? I think I talked about that somewhere. Is there some way we can get you to be a spaceship for the game? In a spaceship, yeah. Maybe some power-ups to get you there. Yeah, so we had this space shooter idea that's supposed to be combined with this one. So let me think about this. I guess we need to start with just the Metroidvania part of this. What is going on with this list? Okay, so ideas. Metroidvania. So I'm thinking is like you could get you start with just walking. You can't even jump. Then you get the boots and now you can jump. Yeah, whatever. And then you get an attack and now you can defeat enemies. You get wall sliding. Is there dashing? I don't remember what graphics we have. I saved them all somewhere. I gotta go find that somewhere. Where is it? I don't know who made these. Ah, yeah, here it is. All right, characters, Archer. All right, so air shooting, attack, death, falling, hurt. There is a slide animation, but I don't know if a slide animation makes sense. And it's just extra artwork that we have to change. I think it was food. Drinks out of the bathtub. Oh, man. All right, yeah. What color is your cat, TJ? You can't jump. You can only reverse gravity for yourself. There's a trinket to get where the only obstacle is a tiny raise in the floor that in any platform you can easily jump over. It was an insanely difficult gauntlet just to get up like 5 pixels to your right. Yeah. I see. So you could get regular sliding. And we could make it so that you could go underneath a small tunnel or something. I'm not a very big fan of that. Also, if you just look at these graphics, there's nothing that's obviously shorter except for the death animation. right? This is the sliding animation. It's still pretty much the same height. Yeah. Well, what else could we do? We could... Yeah, what else could we do? You wall sliding, and then you get the high jump boots and rocket into space. So what we could do is have you get spaceship power-ups here and not know why. I don't like that idea because it foreshadows too much that you're going to go into space. But I kind of want there to be some other like Metroidvania thing that you get. Let's just look at Super Metroid and look at what items you get. I wanted to come up with ones that don't necessarily need graphics. Where's Super Metroid? This alphabetical order. Here it is. All right, so Power Suit and Power Beam are your starting gear. Morph Ball you get. Missile. Okay, so like a better attack. I think that's probably pretty reasonable. I wonder what our better attack would be. Because we only have... Well, we could have air attacking. Air shooting. Or maybe like double jump. Well, we can't really do double jumps, right? Because you got to have the high jumps at some point. I don't want it to be too similar to the first game. We could have you... Other potential unlocks. I don't like the idea of getting spaceship parts because it's foreshadowing a little too obviously. We could have you unlock air shooting or even a better attack. Maybe every third arrow is actually 3 arrows at once. What else? So Morph Ball, this would be similar to having the sliding thing. For those who haven't played Super Metroid, it turned your like 2 tile high character into a 1 tile high character so you can go into small tunnels. Bombs, energy tank, charge beam. Oh, a charge ability would be kind of neat. I mean, a lot of this is just flavor. We don't really need to make puzzles or something around this. Yeah, super missiles. So a lot of beam power-ups. There was the speed booster. We could add a dash. We already have one in the first game. And again, I'm trying to make this a little bit different. We have slide. Slide could be your dash. Although we have run. We have run and walk. Get higher and higher platforms. UI makes it clear that you get like 3 of these power-ups and you get the 4th and it shoots you up into space. Yeah, that's pretty interesting too. I'll write this down. What I want to be careful about, and this is what I think is going to be really tough, we eventually will have like, I don't know, 15 sub-games. And I want them to be distinct from one another. So this concept of like, get 3 of something, get 3 out of 3, but you can actually get 4. We already sort of do this in the top-down shooter. The bar just keeps going and it eventually gets like comically large. So I think it might be better to just abruptly give you this ability because I don't think we've really done that before. But otherwise, I really like the idea. I think if we were just making a standalone game, this would be a good way of like setting up your expectations and then subverting them. So yeah, walking and running. There is no explicit dash, but there is slide. But this would only be on the ground. And what would slide even do? Like in Mega Man, what's the point of slide? It's to get in these small tunnels, I guess. But it doesn't help you dodge things too much. Well, there are some parts of the game where it can help you dodge things, I guess. All right, well, what else did I miss from here? So there's a grappling beam. X-ray gravity suit. You know, playing this game, it feels like there are so many items, or at least it did the first time I played it. And then looking at all this, and I'm like, man, there really isn't that much. And a lot of them are just different attacks. And at some point, you just kind of lock in on what attacks you want to use. Yeah, so I think some better attack would be good. Yeah, I like this idea. And then do we have enough at that point? I mean, in prototyping, we'll probably figure out what else we want to do. The attacks that you get are only in one direction, right? Wait, what is going on in this? Is she like swinging her bow? Oh my god. She is swinging her bow. Yeah, so in this one, she's not swinging the bow, she's actually shooting it, but it would only go forward. You wouldn't be able to control what direction it goes in. I think that'd be a little unsatisfying. We'd have to rework the art if we want you to be able to shoot in any direction. And yeah, air shooting has the same thing. It's practically the same graphics. You could slide through some kind of persistent damage field. Yeah, yeah. I wonder if it feels important though. Maybe it's just to get past a puzzle. Yeah, maybe that could work. Although, what would you be sliding through in these graphics? Because like spikes wouldn't really make sense. Maybe. Hmm. Yeah. So the idea, I guess, is that you can't go through. I think even just this like lower height thing is probably fine. Yeah, slide doesn't really lower your height, right? Where's the sprite sheet again? Oh, I can't find anything in here. All right, how about this? Let's go launch a sprite. Let's load this up in here. And maybe this will make it a little bit more obvious how tall this character is. So when sliding from top to bottom, it is 22 pixels. When just standing around, where's the standing animation idle? It is 23 pixels. Okay, yeah, so it doesn't really change the height. I mean, we could just make something up, right? That we don't need graphics for. There could be like a teleport. Maybe it produces like a puff of smoke and you just appear farther ahead. And you have to get past some like a tree or something with that. That could be kind of cool. Could dodge arrows or something. Yeah. I think something like this would be good. Teleport ability. A puff of smoke appears and you reappear like 5 tiles to the right. The slide ability. This could be something that grants invincibility so that you can get through a rain of arrows. Hey, sad customer. One Castlevania game had night goggles to help you get through a dark level filled with spikes. I guess like we could do something with lighting. Maybe there's a dark room that you can't see in and you gain the ability to light torches or see in the dark. Get increasingly more futuristic. Also, I don't want to foreshadow the spaceship part of the game. I want it to just be a total surprise that you're like, oh, I'm going to jump to that platform, and you just jump through the ceiling and it just zooms out and you're in space all of a sudden. I think that'd be very cool. Yeah. All right, I like the idea of some kind of like teleporter. Because these other ones, it's like, all right, this is pretty basic. You get the ability to jump. Then you get an attack. You get wall sliding. You can make it some like new area. We need there to be just enough rooms where you can tell where the puzzles are. Backtracking shouldn't be too intense for this. You can attack, now you can defeat enemies. Oh, and music-wise, I want something ambient or atmospheric. Would probably It doesn't have to be too ominous. So wall siding, high jump boots. So yeah, there should be like another couple power-ups in here. You get 1 to 2 other power-ups just to require backtracking. I like the teleport ability because it causes you to have to look at the world differently when things wouldn't have stood out to you before. So like, let's say we had a wall going straight through the middle of this. Okay, it's obvious there's something on the right side. So yes, you'd have to get to the other side of the wall. But if there is no wall like that, you just look at this and say like, yeah, this is normal. I don't see any backtracking puzzles here. Like maybe this stands out as you could get into a little cave or something through that. But otherwise it's like, yeah, I don't see anything, nothing too crazy about this. There's a tree in the background. Maybe you get the ability to like walk in the background. Actually, I talked about this the other day, the ability to walk in the background. We do have this like parallax layer. It could be an actual platforming layer where you get back there and now you can like run all throughout there. I don't think we should do that though. Man, I really like this art. Gonna have wall chicken? Yeah, I guess we could. Yeah. All right, so I like the teleport ability. I like this idea because you can use it for non-obvious obstacles. We could have a totally vertical wall that makes it obvious that you can get past it, but it also helps with normal traversal. Yeah, I like this teleport thing. I like that. Okay, so teleport ability. Speed run ability where you can clip through walls. I think it might seem like... Actually, wait. Let me write something down really fast. Probably do need an obvious obstacle so that players know where to go. Oh, happy 2-year anniversary. Thanks for the resub, Kevin. Yeah, responding to you, TJ. So the speedrun ability where you can clip through walls, I think it would feel like it was unintended and that's the part of this tutorial that's broken. At some point, one of the things I got to think about is, so like I said, we're going to have like 15 sub games, and after the first few, you may start guessing what the gimmick will be. I kind of felt this way as I've watched Black Mirror. Black Mirror is a bunch of like tech what ifs. That's how I'd kind of sum it up. Hey, what if you had some like video game thing that you just had to put a node on your head and you could play and it's an infinite world or whatever. Like that's kind of how these episodes start. And you're like, oh, cool. Okay, that's a cool idea. After you watch a few of these episodes, you start thinking like, okay, where is this going? Like, what's the gimmick going to be? Do they get trapped there? Does it make them addicted? Does it, I don't know, like, is it a horror episode? And it takes you out of it a little bit. I mean, maybe this is just, yeah, maybe this isn't how it works for everybody. But I think if you play like 10 games and they're broken similarly enough, you might start being like, okay, how's this one broken? Or what wacky thing am I expecting? Which is why we got to like ratchet up the wackiness. I want a silly message with that, but chat is completely broken on iOS. Oh, I'd sent a silly message. I saw that that's almost 2 years. I don't know if that's the message you're talking about, but I appreciated that. And yeah, I'm having a good one. How are you doing, Kevin? We've been making some great progress over here. I put the merch on. Oh, actually, speaking of merch, do we have the Steam page online? No. Well, someday. Someday that'll be online. View dashboard. Are there any responses here? App is in the review queue. Typically takes 3 to 5 business days. Yeah, it's been like 2 business days. They say here 3 to 5 business days, but when you submit it, it says 2 to 3. So I think this is just to kind of cover themselves, and maybe it will be ready today. I don't know. I don't remember how long it took for Skeleseller. In fact, actually, I could probably check my email and go find out. Although I'd have to know. Stuck in a broken tutorial. Hang on a second. Let me see if I can find this quickly. Your help request has been received by the Steam team. Okay, so maybe I can search for this. No, but it wouldn't be obvious what the contents of the email don't really say anything about Skeleseller, do they? Yeah, I don't know. All right, well, whatever. It doesn't matter. Doesn't even show the notification. Oh, strange. Yeah. Well, I appreciated the silly message. All right, so teleport ability. What else? I guess if you have teleport, that slide isn't super important. Something with lighting could be interesting. Is there any other idea that I want to do? Oh, you know what we could do is like we could light your arrows on fire and then you could light torches with that maybe. It's kind of like a classic Zelda puzzle. I'm just picturing these torches are how you keep the room lit. Maybe you get fire arrows. Maybe that's your upgrade. Yeah, maybe that's your upgrade. Maybe you have like regular arrow and then like fire arrow. And fire arrows could produce light for you, but they could also light torches. This might not be something we could do, not easily. I'm not sure. Maybe fire arrows. I think a 3-way shot would be really cool. This could even be optional. Get a real device. Get him. Show him who's boss. Do we have anything with fire in here? I always hate looking through these to try to find something like this. Bow and projectile. Air shooting, crouch shooting, diagonal shooting. Upward shooting. Where's upward shooting? Also, wouldn't this need to eventually turn into downward shooting? I'm just going to rotate the arrow. Yeah, I don't care about that. Traps. An exploding barrel. Bear trap. Ooh, bombs. Bombs, you say? Bombs, you say? Oops. I mean, update that.
Whoops.
Cannon, cannonball, circular saw, flamethrower, press. What is this? What is this? Oh, like a mallet trap. It just stomps on you. Okay. Hey, Cakes. A little earlier than normal. I hope everything's going okay. Thank you for the raid. Cakes, I want to ask. I don't know if you're actually here, but does game dev ever feel like a grind for you? Because, man, I look at all the different aspects of game dev and I'm like, I generally enjoy it. I like making a game. But at any given moment, I'm like, man, there's 14 problems on my plate. And I'm going to get through these. I'm going to create another 14 problems. Anyway, if you're not already following Cakes in my chat, please do follow Cakes. And hey, Goose. We're still working on Stuck in a Broken Tutorial. This is going to be our game for a while. Hey, Articula. I feel this. Yeah. I like it. And I guess, you know, what's that expression? Like nothing worth having comes easy. I like that I have to put in the work and that it's satisfying. It's just, it's going to be like another year of just working on these games, doing this pattern. I don't know. And then I'll do it all again for another game. You know, it's like, I'm the one who's stuck in a broken tutorial. Anyway, for those who haven't seen my game, I'll show this off really quickly. So it's called Stuck in a Broken Tutorial. You were going through a bunch of different sub games here. They're all tutorials in some way that are broken, obviously. This one just seems normal. Like this is your intro to the game. You're learning some basic stuff. And then you get over here. You try to collect all the diamonds. You can't. You fall. You see the source code for the game. So I think this is really cool. Like a nice little way of showing that, hey, this game's broken. You're going to get into some weird stuff over here. So I'll just teleport to here. So you'll make it over to this side and then trigger a cutscene. It kept up. Stuck in broken tutorial development. Yeah. That's what it feels like. Quijo started working on some new artwork for the architect too. We just had pulled the Skeleseller graphics for now. But yeah, so this is going to be your intro to the game. It takes about a minute, minute and a half. It's interactive, of course. It's what I just showed. But yeah, then you end up in this game. Your character's like, what? Where am I? Hey, Psycho. Oh, I just added portraits yesterday. So yeah, now we have this Tutorial Man player. Yeah, so this is like Stardew Valley almost. It's not supposed to be a real farming game. There are a lot of things that are broken in this one. So you can dig up practically anything. So dirt, of course, grass, but also like fence pieces and trees. And you might try cutting down a tree with your axe, but you instead throw it and gain the ability to run. And then if you try to fetch your axe, it will float away from you and it will cut any trees down in the process and just floats right off the screen. So yeah, this is what I think is really cool about this game. Like there's a lot of ways we can just subvert your expectations. I added this lovable character down here. Senior sign. I get a kick out of this. If you meet this sign and then go to sleep, this is very goofy. All right, so you go to sleep. I already warned you this is goofy, so don't expect this to be a hoot or anything. All right, let's go back down there now. There. Hey Taz, and hey Pressel. Any plans on how we fix it? How the real game ends? Do you know yet? I have a pretty good idea, and yeah, you'll see it play out here. But there is no fixing it. Fixing it is against the philosophy of the game. Isn't the never a dull moment part of the fun and a million different types of work to do? I think it makes it much more enjoyable than business application development. Yeah, I think so. In fact, maybe my thinking about this is really just an indication that I should be taking a break or something. Because I do generally like it. Hey, Randy. Please don't dig up my past. Yeah, so if you do not end up meeting Senior Sign, then he just introduces himself. But you can dig him up too, and then his message goes away. Yeah, 190 streams. It's pretty crazy. Pretty crazy indeed. All right, so anyway, yeah, you'll go through a bunch of other games like this, and we've got 5 of them so far. It looks like there are 6, but this one's cut out of the game. This was supposed to be like when you went to sleep in the farming game, you'd wake up here. And this was my favorite gimmick here, is that, whoops, is that this dialogue is actually a platform you can land on, which I think is pretty neat. But yeah, there's not too much. I mean, you could also like spew items out and collect these strawberries using the sickles that you spew out of yourself. So yeah, this was supposed to be like a very wacky dream game. And we very slightly rotated the hotbar at the top. Play into that. But yeah, otherwise this is pretty much the same. It might not even work. I have tested this because it's not in the game. Yeah, it does work. Okay, good. So yeah, we're doing game design today. We're talking about some upcoming games. I want to work on, I think, 4 more before November. That way we'll have 9 games. Some of them are very short. They're just like joke ideas. And some of them are much longer. Like this that we're talking about is a Metroidvania where you unlock the high jump boots and you jump all the way through the ceiling into space and it becomes a space shooter. And I just love this idea. I just think it's so cool. So we were looking through our graphics here to figure out like, what do we have? I gotta make sure to add traps in, by the way. Oh, I guess this is where maybe sliding could come in. I didn't think about this. Maybe you could like slide underneath a ceiling saw. Yeah, we could do that. But in terms of fire, we don't really have too many fiery graphics, right? No. Yeah, I don't want to do fire arrows, I think. What is this? All right, there's like a pelt and some diamonds and stuff. Maybe there are passages with saws on the ceiling that you slide under or slide through. I guess it doesn't matter which one it is. It's that you're not taking damage from it. The only reason I don't like this is that it seems too one-dimensional. And I guess this was true even in Super Metroid, maybe, kind of. But there's the Morph Ball in Super Metroid, and yeah, what this does is it just lowers your height. That's it. Now you can't attack. You could also put bombs down, but they could have made it so you could put bombs down regularly. And yeah, in this room, when you get it, you turn yourself into a Morph Ball and you walk out the bottom of it. And it's a nice way of teaching you that you can do this. When you end up bombing the wall later, it's like there might be some passages you can get through. They do some pretty cool stuff in Super Metroid with this too, where like you can go onto one of those Chozo statues and it can carry you. I think it's really cool. But otherwise, it's just a make your character smaller ability. It's kind of it. So yeah, we'll do something along these lines. I do like the idea of a better attack, though. That I think for sure should happen. So three-way shot, homing shot. I don't think a homing shot will be super obvious. I'll write down other ideas. World. There should be traps all over the place. Oh yeah, I guess some questions that I have. So what happens when you get hit? We don't have UI for this, do we? I don't think there's any UI. I don't see any. Yeah, I don't see any. And none of this shows off UI, does it? No. They have any like hearts or something? Items, crafting items. No heart in there. I mean, we could just use UI from a different game. But if they had something for this, maybe I could use that. Yeah, no, they don't. Wasn't there a freeze beam? Let you use enemies as platforms? Yeah. There was. And I think a lot of the ideas that they came up with for that game were very cool. I think some of them fell a little bit short, like the X-ray beam to me. You had to stop and use it. It wasn't just always on. It might have been cooler if it was just like always on in a region around your character. Because otherwise you feel like you have to scan every single room at some point, and it's really tedious. And then the other thing was the ability to switch weapons didn't really matter too much. It was mostly just like, did you want ice on or did you want it off? But all in all, I think it was a pretty good game. All right, so yeah, we don't have UI. We got to figure that out. Yeah, what happens when you get hit? So like option 1, you die and restart in the beginning of the room. Option 2, you have a life bar. Oh, you know what? We could, if we go this route, we could give you a regeneration power up. Yeah, that could be kind of cool. Could add scanning if you want another avenue to insert jokes. Yeah, there could be some funny stuff. Maybe you scan a wall chicken and you just see a bunch of bones. Or maybe well, I gotta be careful because it's hard to know sometimes whether it's a language joke or not. But like a scanner in English is a device that lets you make copies of something digitally. So like, what if you used your scanner and it just duplicated everything? But from your player perspective, you'd be like, this is a duplicator, not this is a scanner and it's a joke, I guess. Yeah, I think a regeneration power would be kind of neat. You have a life bar when you die. Well, I guess if we do go this route, then like, yeah, what happens if you die? Maybe there are checkpoints. Yeah, there could probably be checkpoints. I don't know what the checkpoints would look like. Do we have any kind of like statue or something? Props? No. And we only, yeah, no, I don't really think so. We have treasure chests to give you these things. Anything else? Pixel World Dungeon Pack? What is this? This is everything I already looked at, right? Oh, no. This is a totally different asset pack. Never mind. I don't need that. Armor, archer. Yeah. Okay, cool. So we'll have treasure chests and stuff. Items should be in treasure chests. Hey, Pickle. And more like scanning in Metroid Prime where you get info about the thing you're scanning. Oh, I see. Okay. It'd be kind of funny if you got scanning and it was literally just, this is an enemy. It's weak to arrows. If you scan another one and it says, this is an enemy. It's weak to arrows. That'd be kind of funny. Suggested the ability to scan things like in Metroid Prime. I thought it could be funny to have them all have the same description. This is a wall, you can't move through it. If you want to break the fourth wall, this is a broken tutorial. You are having fun. So I like the idea of a life bar. I think this is pretty cool. We have UI from other games. I mean, making a life bar is not that hard anyway. But yeah, I think we should probably give you a life bar. All right, let's write that down. So UI, you have a life bar, whether it's discrete or continuous, doesn't matter. Whoops, doesn't matter too much to me. You can get regeneration as an upgrade. You could also get like armor as an upgrade. I'm gonna write this down too. Regeneration / armor. These are likely optional. Oh, you know what you could do? You could get armor that makes you immune to some traps. Maybe that's better than the slide ability. Maybe you get like fireproof armor. Maybe this is a reference to how you'll survive in space somehow. A printer too? Yeah, see, that's the kind of joke I was talking about. But like, is that language specific? I like that idea. It could be that the armor is what lets you survive in space. At which point we would have to require it. Although we'd also have to explain it. We're not going to change the graphics of your character. So it'd just be, where is it? Armor. One of these. You get something in here. I don't know. You get a helm or whatever. Oh, hang on one second. I'll be right back. Okay. So yeah, there's a whole bunch of different armor pieces here. And what are these? Is this supposed to be a shield or a ring? I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't know. I think they're supposed to be shields. I really like the teleport idea though. I think it's pretty cool. Looks like a bracelet. It might be. Is that a shield or is that a helmet? That is also a helmet. Yeah, it's got a grill on it. So they don't have shields? I mean, I don't need there to be a shield, but could be that the armor is instead of the slide ability. It makes you immune to some kind of trap, maybe fire. I don't know how that would make sense exactly. It's heat proof armor, I guess, but your sprite doesn't change. Maybe it's something magical, fireproof amulet or something like that. Yeah, that could probably make more sense. Maybe it's a fireproof amulet instead of armor. Yeah, that's probably pretty good. Because we have fire traps. Tile set, where is it? Items, traps, yeah, here. Where is the fire trap? Flamethrower, here it is. Yeah, like I can imagine these going on and they're just barriers. They push you backward and you take damage. But when you get the fireproof amulet, you can just walk through them. Yeah. It just sparkles on you. Yeah. Or maybe there's like a really hot room. Maybe the whole desert tile set is hot. Where's the desert tile set? Desert here. Yeah, like this. Maybe we could do one of those like heat effects for the background to give an indication that it's hot. The shimmering. And you can't be in here unless. Yeah, that could potentially work. We just need some kind of general ideas. I do like this though. Maybe you can't even go to the desert biome without this amulet, or you take constant damage. So now, how do we connect the biomes? That's another question. How do we connect the biomes? Because there is no obvious transition tile set. So it's like, hey, here you're in a dungeon. If you just like walked off the side and you're in a desert, it'd be kind of strange, right? Do we need some like lore reason for that? The way Super Metroid did it is they had the elevators as the transition areas. Super Metroid map. What is going on? Okay, here we go. Where's the graphic? Why is it popping up like a million different things? Oh, the site. There we go. Yeah, so you would go from here, you're in the caves, down to here. It still looks like you're in caves and everything. And then the elevator, and the elevator is a transition into vegetation area. Very lush zone. So yes, I think there could be some transition. However, we don't have that transition. We have desert, the forest. What is this supposed to be? Dungeon, I guess. Graveyard. What is this? Wait. What? What is this from? Is this the jungle one? I don't know. Whatever. Anyway, there's no tile set. So Super Metroid had the elevators as transitional areas. We would benefit from something like that. We don't even have like doors, do we? If I go look at, whoops, where'd that go? Oh my God, come on. Tile set. This one, tiles. Oh, props and objects. What do we have here? Cages, chains, treasure chest, doors. Okay, there are doors. I wonder if all of them have doors. It wouldn't make sense for a desert to have a door, right? Props. Yeah, no, we don't. Hmm. I don't know. I don't. Hey, Magnus. I don't have an explanation for this. Teleporter could bring you to the desert. We have this themed like a medieval fantasy game right now. Well, in my head at least. Like this is how these graphics look to me. You know, there's a knight, there's a scorpion, there's a skeleton. They got bows and swords. There's no technology in any of these screenshots, or not. You know, modern tech. There's no electrical tech. So I don't know what would make you go from here to here. It could be some like we add in a portal or a teleporter platform, probably a portal. We don't have anything of the sort, do we? If I search for portal, no. No, that's too bad. Yeah, maybe we just make one. We could also do some. Yeah, that's probably what we do. So what happens if you don't jump? What happens if you don't jump where you're supposed to with the high jump boots? I guess we just need to make it obvious that you have to go in that direction. And then do we have a mini map? We probably should. Did I write down the UI thing? Yeah, UI. You probably need a mini map to orient yourself. Up on a cart or carriage still needs art that rolls off screen, fade to black, fade in to you rolling onto screen. Yeah, I guess the cart would indicate that you're being transported farther away. It might still be jarring though. I think I like the portal idea. More thematic. Yeah, I see what you're saying. I think portals work. I mean, if you're willing to, if you got like, warrior, mage, archer kind of game, it's like, well, that probably implies you got magic. Portals are kind of magic-y. Fall into the ocean and land in the desert. I don't even know if we have an ocean tile set, but I don't think that would make sense either, right? Yeah, we just had this stuff. I think in here we've got some water, maybe? No, I guess it's this one. Wait, what? Is there no water in this? I don't, it doesn't really matter, I guess, but it's just in the background. Ah, there's no foreground water. Well, that could kind of be foreground water, I guess. Is this the graveyard one? Bonus character? The little ghost? Man, I really like this art. All right, I don't know where that is. It doesn't matter. By the way, this I think would be really hard to make a game with even all these graphics. Like we are coming up with a game specifically for this, but if I was like, oh, I want to make a platform out of this stuff, there's not a lot you can do. It's like sort of game jam level game. They're wormholes. Hey John, I like that. We don't ever have to explain that, but I like that. Yeah. Okay, so have we answered enough of this stuff? The mini map can make it clear. The mini map should also indicate that there's a ton of other rooms off to the side. And then other ways we could sell this potentially. We could use this idea for an inventory. There could be grayed out items using graphics that we just never needed to try to indicate that this is a very long game. Yeah, this is a really good idea. Hey, Foreign. Hello, hello. Yeah, I like that idea a lot. I don't know if I still have this open, but yeah, like we could show a grayed out version of this and this and this and this and whatever. Like it doesn't matter what they even are. And you're like, oh wow, I've got like 14 other items I got to collect. But yeah, once you get the boots, it's done. And they're just shadows of things. We can show shadows of like kind of funnier ideas. They can be shadows of another NPC. In fact, actually, yes, Sidekick could show up there. Sidekick could even have a shadow of them in the inventory. He would never. He would never. All right, so UI, we probably need an inventory screen. We probably need an inventory screen. These games are getting more and more elaborate. All right, so is there anything I haven't answered? There's one thing. Oh yeah. How do you go into the space section? Like when you meet Sidekick, how are you putting them in your inventory, I guess? Is that even what's happening? What happens once you meet Sidekick? I think you should put them in your inventory just like you would any item. Yeah, prior to that, we can show a grayed out I mean, whatever, like a silhouette of the Sidekick. What? Yep. Words failed me for that. It's clear enough. First platformer is jumping too short and falling down. This has jumping too far up. Still need to cover jumping sideways somehow. We need some kind of platformer game that lets you jump on platforms. We will probably make yet another platformer, maybe even two more out of this. I feel like there's a lot of ground to cover with platformers. For one, a lot of Metroidvania games are platformers. Now, kind of argue that a Metroidvania game is really just game with backtracking. But yeah, I think most common genre for that is platformer. At least all the Metroid games and Castlevania games at first were platformers, so follow that formula. Platformula. Be a good name for a game. Okay, so have we answered pretty much everything? I think we have enough to go off of here. So this gets us into space. But then once we're in space, we have a whole other game we got to design. And I already kind of determined how it's going to work. I think we do this as like a sideways shooter, not a top-down shooter. And there's this bundle. Is this on sale by any chance? No. Wait, it is? Offer ends. What's the offer? Getting them as a bundle? Wait a second though. This is the person who had their Patreon thing, right? Yeah. Okay, I'll probably do that. How many games have I made live since I first started streaming? So the very first one was Botland. And then I made some kind of small games back in the... Well, I made Animal Royale. I made like an NES ROM. We made Jump Royale. And there's something else in there, right? Oh, I made that Minecraft plugin. No, that was Animal Royale. And then yeah, the bigger games that we were working on have been Skeleseller and now Stuck in a Broken Tutorial. So depending on how you count this, you might say 3, maybe 5. Yeah, I just put xtonomus.com online. I'll link this in chat. But it's got the links to the bigger games here. This one actually doesn't work yet because I'm waiting for Valve to review it. Yeah, it'll be online soon. Hey, chat. How does that double keyboard work? So this, I mean, just imagine splitting a keyboard in half. The fact that it's 2 halves is not really the crazy part about this. The crazy part is it's only got 36 keys. And for that, it's mostly layers. So like if you look down at your keyboard, you don't have an exclamation mark key or a $ key or an @ key. You hold like Shift and 1 or Shift and 4 or whatever your layout has it. But like there's no dedicated key for exclamation mark usually. So like this is like a layer. You hold this and it changes what the other keys do. So yeah, I type out letters, then I hold this and I type out numbers. And I hold this and I type out symbols. So that's generally how you use this keyboard. An ad's about to start. So I am going to take a quick break. Is it jump time? It's jump time. Hello, hello. Hey, Obama. Hey, ABC. Close the game. All right. So we are gonna. Hang on one second. I'm just trying to finish something over here. There we go. Foreign, you said back to the list when you can. Are you talking about this? This is the site I linked in chat. But yeah, it's. Oh, unless you meant this. Where was it? This, yeah. Yeah, these smaller, like that's one of the games that I made on stream. These other ones aren't necessarily playable. Why is it sad? I don't think it's sad. I think it's just chill and relaxing. But I composed that music for Botland originally and just put it on that screen. But yeah, it's supposed to just be just some relaxing chords. All right, so now it's on to designing the rest of the space shooter. So the gimmick here was enemies are actually power-ups, and what seem like power-ups are actually bombs. Bullets are still bullets. You need to learn to fly into enemies, both destroy them and power up. Wait, does it destroy them? I guess, yeah. So the power-ups are the enemies? I I like this idea in general. I think the issue is like, where is the challenge? Like you have to dodge the bullets that ships are shooting to be able to touch the ships. But like power-ups pose no real challenge. Maybe they become the enemy ships? Is that even a thing that's going to be obvious? Do we have power-up graphics in here? Spaceships, ships, explosions, projectiles, thrusters. Do any of these have icons, missile designs? I guess the power-ups are usually just an outlined version of one of the other items, like a missile, for example. Or, wow, maybe different ships or something. Yeah, I don't see power-ups in here. Then there were some explosions. This is almost certainly not power-ups, right? Yeah. But cool stuff, I guess. One of the saddest songs I've ever heard. Man, yeah, every once in a while, I've heard this feedback a lot about stuff that I've composed, but they're like, this makes me feel like I'm at a funeral or something. And I'm like, man, I have a very different perception of this music. Yeah. Hmm. Okay. Yeah. So I guess that would be the idea. Enemies are shooting bullets at you pretty much constantly. And we need to make it. Is this just a gimmick? Like you just came from a longer game, so this one's shorter? Where is the background music? Oh, the music everyone's talking about is from the game that I just played on break. So yeah, you can't hear right now the stuff that people are discussing. Well, I guess you could if you go here. Where was it? Yeah, this one. Yeah, I don't think it's very sad. Anyway, I'm not gonna let that keep playing. But yeah, welcoming Kajini. So the game. Well, how about this? Let's write all this stuff over here. I'm gonna close out of all these tabs. There we go. Wait, that didn't work. What's going on? There it is. Cool. Okay, over to the scratch section. It's pretty much like back to the space shooter. Coming back to this to figure out some of the details. So a couple things. Questions. How long and how difficult should this game be? We'll probably have a good amount of artwork. So yeah, on this note, figuring out that enemies are really power-ups will probably not be like super fast, especially if you can destroy them, right? For players, unless they realize that the power-ups hurt them, then they may try doing something differently. But yeah, after you realize this, is there challenge to the game? I guess it depends on what are the power-ups, which we should probably write that down too. What are the power-ups? And can you, or what are the, it's like, what do you get when you collect an enemy? Actually, you know, it'd be kind of funny is turning this into like a creature collection game. It almost be neat to turn this into a series of like 3, 4 sub games connected into one. You're going from this Metroidvania, you launch yourself into space, then you're shooting against these spaceships, but you're actually collecting them and then sending them into like a turn-based battle where they use different attacks. Oh my god. Someone needs to take this computer away from me before I actually code this. I don't think this fits with the rest of the lore of the game. The worlds aren't supposed to be connected like this. And this one in particular is an exception because space still exists even if you're on the planet doing, you know, medieval fantasy stuff. So you being able to go into space is fine, but you being able to go from there into a totally different game is probably not. Anyway, what do you get when you collect an enemy? Which are actually power-ups. Is there any challenge to the game? I guess you still have to dodge bullets, but it's probably not very difficult. Also, if you can take X hits before you die, then you can probably just keep steering directly into enemies to collect them as power-ups. Yeah, this is gonna be difficult. You get better at the thing the enemy does, like fast shooters give fire rate, fast movers give speed. I'm not sure. I'm also not even sure if power-ups are necessary. What's the point of you getting them? What is the point of getting power-ups? Like, maybe there's a boss that you can't just collect. Maybe the power-up is the boss. Maybe there's no point. Hmm. Probably need to look through the graphics we have to determine this. But I imagine it's some combination of bombs, missiles, shields, thrusters, health regen or armor, fire rate, anything else. That's probably it. And then, yeah, same thing as before, like what happens if you die? Hmm. Hmm. Oh, you know what? I kind of like the idea of you collecting spaceship parts. I talked about this, but I never wrote it down. Do you actually collect spaceship parts? Maybe that's the goal of the game. Maybe where'd those spaceship graphics go? Maybe you're getting pieces of a spaceship and they're just kind of papering over your archer character. Because at first you're an archer in space. And then, yeah, you start getting like, yeah, maybe you get like a quarter of this. And so you're an archer with like a It's a giant wing or whatever this is out of the front of you. And then you get like the rear part of this, and I'm not sure if I love that. There'd have to be a more modular ship for that, I guess. Let me load up the rest of this. Oh, all ships have two versions, normal and powered up. And tilt animations. Okay, that one. So maybe you're collecting the parts and then you get the power-ups, and then that lets you do something. I don't know what the something is. Yeah. Where's the pack that has the upgrades? This one? Yeah, so this pack has ships and upgraded versions. Okay, so why would you need to collect a spaceship? You're already in space and you're somehow alive. Yeah, this game probably needs to be from the side. I got to rework this entire thing. Hey, David. Good morning. You're late, David. You're late. We did not fill our David quota for the morning. Hmm. Hmm. All right, so I want to answer that question. Why do you like? How does this game end? Do you go into warp drive with your upgraded ship and make it back to the architect's realm? Do you absorb a boss? Yeah, this is quite the challenge. So in the Dungeon Racer, you keep getting faster and faster until the screen goes white and you end up in the architect's realm. In the top-down shooter, you keep getting more and more power until you can destroy a wall and tear a hole in the fabric of the game. So those are kind of already done. So if you're going to get a spaceship here, maybe it's so you can fly back to Earth. I mean, we have planets over here. Maybe it's so you can like go to the planet. How many of these are there? 3 planets. Hmm. Yeah, I'm not sure. It'd be funny if you're shooting arrows all the time still. Maybe the arrows can't destroy enemies. Maybe you're shooting arrows as an archer, but they can't actually destroy enemies. Hey, Chappie. Hello, hello. You work out how you jump into space? Yeah, yeah. That we figured out. We figured out all the Metroidvania stuff. Now we're in space and we're trying to figure out what's going on here. So I'm not. My idea that I have is that we flip this on its head. Normally, in a space shooter game, let's go just look at like Aero Fighters or something like that. So normally in a space shooter game, it is. There's no great graphics for this to show this off, huh? No. Anyway, yeah. Normally it's you versus like a million different enemies, and I know this isn't even Aero Fighters, but I can still load this up. This is terrible. Okay, what's that game called for some like Raptor space shooter game? Was it called Raptor? Sky Raptor? That doesn't sound right. Well, there's some like old game. I thought I'd Call of the Shadows. I think it was this. Yeah, this game was great. Oh, it's on Steam? Wow. Yeah, so do they have any power-ups in here? I don't think so. I think you collected money in this game. Anyway, yeah. Normally in a space shooter, you're fighting against enemies. What I want to do is I want to make the enemies the actual power-ups. So they're still shooting bullets at you, but if you go touch them, you'll get some power-up. Maybe the power-ups are money, and you're using the money to buy your ship. I don't think that's very satisfying yet. Hey, Sengo. How's the release of your game? What's the next goal? What is something you learned after the release for your next game the hard way? So the release is pretty good. Skeleseller is now on Steam. Unfortunately, it's getting entirely negative reviews as of late because people are upset the game is short. I think it's because the positive reviews like fell off because there weren't a lot for then. So something that bugs me a little bit about this is like no one's reading the description, which I recognize this happens, but it's like, here's the amount of time. This is a finite game. That's one of the selling points of the game. I just added the short tag to the very start of this. So yeah, short is now the very first tag. Like I don't want people buying this and being like, I'm going to buy a 400-hour game. It's like, just look at the reviews. The reviews all have times of like 4 hours, 5 hours, 8 hours, 14, 13, whatever. Like read the ones that say that it's short. But yeah, so anyway, the game launched. It did well enough. What's the next goal? The next goal is to work on the next game, which is Stuck in a Broken Tutorial. And the biggest thing that I learned was don't save all of the annoying tasks until the end of the game. Like I went nuts at the end of Skeleseller. I did not like working on marketing alongside bug fixing, alongside polish, alongside like the rest of the localization work that I needed to do. It was just like tedious task after tedious task for months. And yeah, there was not much fulfillment to be found there. So now I'm trying to spread it out. My keyboard is not QWERTY. No, it's Colmac. And hey, Codex, I haven't seen you in a while. Do I have a Colmac command? Yeah. Touching them grants the power of love. I do kind of like the idea, but I like the idea that they're just power-ups. Collecting money to pay that. That's kind of interesting. You're repairing the spaceship for somebody else. Ideas from chat. Wish you good luck with the next game. Hope it'll do great. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Yeah, and I hope you're doing well too. Yeah, this new game, I'll show it really briefly because I end up doing a demo quite a lot for this, but we've made a good amount of progress in a little over 4 months, including with the music. This is another thing I don't want to save till the end. So this game starts you in a platformer that purports to just be a platformer. You know, press B to jump, press R to dash, you can double jump. And then you get to this section and you combine those skills. So you jump, you dash, you jump, you dash, and then you fall through the world, through all the source code of the game, and into this dark cavern down here. So this is your intro. This is what shows you, like, yeah, it was a tutorial, but it's obviously a broken tutorial now. And you eventually work your way into other games from here. So the next game you enter would be a farming game. And yeah, all of this is connected. There's story points in between. It's pretty cool to be able to use a bunch of different asset packs and come up with cool ideas. So yeah, I'm very happy with it. Dungeon owner comes after you a couple screens in. Bury a hat in time. Could be that the dungeon owner is mad at you. Let me just copy this. Nice idea, nice art style. Yeah, I really, really like the idea. The art I can take no credit for, of course. It's been a combination of asset packs and Quickie Joe making some artwork here. So, for example, this platformer character that you see here, this is this asset pack, but with a couple of changes. So the main character here has horns and a little like knife or dagger or something. We got rid of both of those elements. because we don't have an attack, and because having her have horns in every game would probably be pretty tough to do on small pixel art. But what Quickie Joe had to do is take every single frame of animation for every single game and make it so that we can colorize it. So he categorized like which pixels are for hair, which pixels are for the shirt, for example, so that you can change these things. And that way it's clear to you that you are the same player throughout the game. So I have a green shirt and pink hair here. When I go into this game, for example, it's like, oh yeah, that's me. I recognize that. So he had to also change the hairstyles and sometimes the artwork for all these games. And yeah, it was not a small task. And I did none of that. But yeah, that way in all these different games, you look the same. And in this one in particular, wait for just a little bit. And see the standby animation. There we go. Yeah. Yeah. Lots of cool ideas here. Yeah, I think the coloring is pretty important because otherwise you'd be like, I'm just going through random games. Like, who are these people? Who am I playing as? And that's why I think it was important to add. It's also cool to just customize your character. Like, some people are going to want to play as just the default, but for the ones who want to fully customize it, it's like, you can go hog wild here. Make whatever you want. Make it look like a different character. Make it look like Mario. All right, this idea of the dungeon owner getting mad at you. I haven't played a Hat in time, so I don't know how close to copying that it is. And they'd have to follow you into space. The idea of them following you into space to ask you for money is pretty funny to me. So I guess the ships could just give you money at that point. And then maybe this character like opens a portal for you. Actually, maybe the character who follows you into space is just one of these other characters from this pack, right? We've got a whole bunch of them. Is there an easier way to see this? I think there's a page. Yeah, here we go. Yeah. So it could be like a space bat. This thing just flies up and it's like, whoa, 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 whoa. You just crashed through my dungeon. And now you think you can escape in space? It's actually really funny. Beat that will set me back at least 400,000 credits. And now you think you can just escape into space? Not on my watch. You get me back those 400,000 credits, or else what is a threat that they would do? I'm taking all those items you found. Yeah, how would they threaten you? I mean, it's not a real threat. It's not like I'll kill you. It's yeah. Maybe it's just or else. ... It's just an implied threat. Your character could say, "Are you threatening me?" "No, that's a promise." And then the bat flies back to Earth. I wouldn't do that. I do think the idea of it being a bat for some reason is funny to me because I guess they would fly up into space. Nothing else here can fly. It doesn't need to be able to fly though. Like Magnus said, it could be like this. Well, this character could probably breathe in space, right? Yeah, we could say that. But yeah, these other ones probably not. It could be a mushroom. It could be the toxic frog too. I think those are the best ones though. The bat, the pumpkinhead, the mushroom, or the frog. I think one of those would follow you into space. Maybe the goblin. It's got to be a character we don't want to have be an enemy in the game though. Or maybe they were an enemy, but they kept respawning. We could put some more of a story touch behind this. Yeah, but yeah, I really, really like this idea. So I'm giving you a point. Magnus. Review. This game was so much better than Skeleseller. That game sucked. I played that for 10 minutes and I was done and never went back, and there was no other content, not even content I didn't like. And that's another thing that kind of surprises me about this is like these these reviews commenting on how short the game is, they're not like, well, there was another mode, but I just didn't find it fun. They're just like, the game ended. That was it. There was nothing afterward. Actually, what if they don't know? Like, the game does make it clear, but yeah, what if they're just like, oh, I'm finished? I didn't think about that as a potential thing. Yeah, maybe I should follow up on that. Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't matter. Yeah. No, I probably should follow up. Follow up with one of the negative Steam reviews and ask if they tried bone mode. It's totally fine if they didn't or didn't like it. I just want to know if they're aware of it. Since some people said the game just ends. Really think they read a menu and in-game dialogue? Well, it changes the title screen by adding a new button. And I would expect them to see that button probably, but yeah, maybe they aren't reading any of that. That would actually, like, man, if that's what's happening, that's really bad. Because, like, I wonder how many more people would enjoy the game. And if you look at the achievements, the number of people who beat the final boss, 67%. So 2/3 of the player base beat the final boss. And then the number of people who beat the very first bone mode objective is 37%. So 1/3 of all players beat the first scenario of bone mode, which means we lose half of the players after the story. Now, it could be that people started this and then they're like, oh, this isn't fun. I don't want to continue it. So that's some percentage of the whatever 30 that we lost. But is that the majority of it? Or are there people who are just like, oh, that was the end of the game. I'm done. So yeah, I do not know. But with that said, I mean, 10% of the players completed all of the scenarios. So these ones obviously know that bone mode exists, or they couldn't have beaten the first scenario. And then they just gave up at some point or stopped. And yeah. Yeah, anyway. Does it count players that have bought and not played the game? I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how that works. But still, we could see at least that this achievement was 95% of people. So if it does count everyone, it's like, well, there's only 5% that are unaccounted for that never even got an achievement. Many people buy and only play later. Yeah. But I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, if all of these were at 1 or 2%, you wouldn't really know what the problem is. But knowing that this is at 95% means there are a bunch of people who are just not playing bone mode. Now, in order to get there, you minimally have to spend probably 3.5 hours. So maybe some people played and they're like, well, this was fun, but I'm not going to come back to even story mode. I don't know. Yeah. All right. So yeah, really like this idea. Of the characters in this, of the characters from these packs, the ones I think would be most likely to follow you into space. Let's put this over here. Let's put this over here. Pumpkinhead. It looks like it could breathe in space. And it looks a bit angry. It doesn't actually look that angry, does it? No, it doesn't look angry. It doesn't look angry though, but Quickie Joe could add eyebrows or change their eye shape. The bat can fly, so it could, reasonably, by video game logic, fly into space. The goblin, just typical. Mushroom slash frog. Kind of the zany options here. And maybe I can see the mimic chest. Like, it looks angry and it is probably something you'd associate with greed, I guess. Do they show the... Yeah, here we go. Yeah, I could see that working too. This is something you would probably associate with greed, and it looks very angry. Do we have, what are the frames we have for that? Mimic chest. Let's open this up. Gold, silver. So it just floats into space, and then you see this eyeball appear. And then it opens and talks with these graphics. Hmm. Hmm. Text a lisp as it speaks. Because of the tongue? Because it's a treasure chest? I don't think we'll do that. Yeah, so I'm leaning toward this or this. These ones stand out the most to me. All right, so yeah, the idea is that the dungeon owner wants money to make repairs. So that's your reason for doing this. And you get money from destroying ships, maybe? Snake S's? Yeah, maybe. You could always use like a jagged font or something. All right, so yeah, maybe ships give you money when you destroy them. Kind of want them to talk about having to hire contractors. That would be funny. All right, maybe ships give you money when you destroy them. I guess that's got to be it, right? If they're looking for money, you got to get money somehow. Where do you get money from? Have to be destroying ships. And if you're getting money anyway, there could be a shop. Could be a shop. It could be that you're getting scrap and selling it. Could be that they're dropping the items that you saw on your inventory screen but weren't filled in. Okay, that's kind of interesting. Dive for the money after you destroy ships. Hey, Brent. I think I kind of like this latest idea. So we have all these item graphics that we just don't have any need for. Yeah, like these. It could be that you destroy the enemy spaceships and they drop this stuff into space. So you're just collecting a bunch of loot and then you give the loot to the mimic. Is there like an eating animation? Yeah, that could kind of work. You toss loot in and it just eats it like that. It's kind of interesting. Oh, Sylvester's speech pattern, yeah. Yeah, the mimic could eat the items and be satisfied. Always assume it's a mimic. Okay, so yeah, then the issue becomes that my original idea about how ships are actually power-ups or enemy ships are actually power-ups. isn't really needed. And I like that idea. So it's a question of which one am I married to more? The mimic idea and how you got to repay them. Well, I guess you could repay them anyway. It's not incompatible with this. It's just a question of are you getting money or are you getting items that you then turn into money? Items are scrap. Because how else would you get money, right? You're either getting money, items, or scrap metal. Or you're finding some other way to repay the mimic. Feed the ships so the mimic can get their powers. Well, the mimic isn't you, so maybe the mimic would get the powers, but like they'd have to spit out an item or something afterward. If you're getting scrap metal, you could eventually build your own ship. Maybe the mimic gives you a spaceship at the end. Saying that you'd otherwise be stuck floating here forever. That's kind of interesting. But you don't know how to pilot a spaceship. So you like blast off into some random direction and end up in the architect's realm. Could just be a bunch of, yeah, something like that. I think that's pretty interesting. Yeah, we have dialogue like this. Thanks for all the loot. You actually overpaid me. I guess I could help you out. Yeah, anyway, something like that. Maybe you give them all your items you had before too. You give them your original power-ups. Excuse me. You could even drop the items that you definitely got earlier. I know what I'm doing. Press a bunch of buttons. Explode your bag the Arctic from. Actually, you know what would be really funny? Okay. Yeah, you get the spaceship. Okay, it would be hilarious if there's a quick time event that uses inputs you don't have on your controller. Press these keys within the next 10 seconds and it's just impossible. It's literally impossible. And if you did manage to plug in a controller that has them, then it switches to something else or something like that. But yeah, I love this idea. Where are the graphics for that? Icons, input prompts. Here we go. Yeah. So we have like playdate graphics over here, right? Let's take a look at these. Okay, these aren't so crazy, but like this one, for example, it's the crank. So for those who haven't seen the playdate console, it's a little console with a hand crank on the side, and most of the games are supposed to use that. Yeah. Here's the example here. So most of them are supposed to use that as a mechanic in the game. So like this is how you move in the game here. So you can be like spin the crank and then like bop it or something. Or it's always this verbose. Yeah. Hey, everyone, you've been tempted to pick it up. I don't think I'd probably have fun with it. I like the idea. I think it's neat. I hope the people who bought it are happy with it. All right, so yeah, we got a graphic over here. Whoops. We got a graphic over here. So the hand crank. Love it. What other ones can we use that are like obviously... Play date, hand crank, glyph. I'd love to have like a GameCube controller here. Where's that? Nintendo GameCube. It might not be obvious. It's got to be obvious whatever we do. So like I was mentioning this the other day. If we had the C stick, so on a GameCube controller, you have a yellow analog stick that is the C stick. Players might not realize that this is even something they don't have on their controller. So I don't think we could use this. Because you might be like, oh yeah, I'm pressing the stick to the left. Like, why isn't it working? Although I guess as long as you see the first glyph is impossible, then you wouldn't be concerned about anything else. Do we have anything else though that'd be like funny here? Maybe we just come up with like random glyphs. Yeah, anyway, we can figure it out. N64 Z button. Is there N64 controllers here? No. They go back to the GameCube, but not farther than that. Flares? What is flares? Also, you might be using a keyboard. If you're using a keyboard, I don't know what we do. Because your keyboard would have all of the keys. Oh, there's an any key. These are really hard to see when it's on a white background. Maybe we should just load them in Chrome. That doesn't help. Maybe if I turn off Dark Reader. No, that doesn't help either. What about this? No. Oh, well, whatever. Yeah, use different glyphs from a different font. I think whatever it is, we can come up with that later, I suppose. But yeah, I like this idea quite a lot. So yeah, you get into the spaceship. We could have a narrator say this. You've never actually piloted a ship before. No, I don't think we need that. Should have had some buttons at the back left side of the console. F13 through F24. Yeah. F15 key on the keyboard. Like a picture of a cat. A bomb or something, a sprite from another game. Hey, 3D extended. Yeah, so whatever. It's just a bunch of random stuff that obviously you don't have. And probably we start it with maybe sprinkle in some glyphs that they actually have on their control input, on their input method. But since you can't press the first, you'll never get to these ones. And then after the timer counts down, your ship goes off in a wayward direction or explodes. Actually, what if it did explode? You get this brand new ship and it just blows up and you're in the architect's realm. Yeah, I actually kind of like that. And explodes. So it just like veers off. Shakily goes off in a wayward direction and explodes. Yeah. Hey, Strawn. Some player with a Hyper 7 R4 keyboard is going to love the F15. They're going to be like, I can press that key. I'm ready for it. I got this covered. Where is F15? I see F1 through F12. No, I don't think they actually have. Not an explicit one, at least. Yeah. Give an achievement if they actually get it right. No. This is another big learning from Skeleseller. People are very picky about achievements, and anything like that that requires some like arcane knowledge, I think people would be upset about, because they'd be like, I want 100% the achievements, and I'm stuck because I need to buy a special input method or something. They'd be annoyed. Okay, so let's see. You're getting loot or scrap or money. So I guess my questions now are you getting loot, scrap, metal, or money? I think loot is the funniest. I think we go with that route. And then are we using the idea that enemies are actually power-ups, and power-ups are actually like bombs. This is the big question. I don't know what the answer to this is. So if we didn't use the idea that enemies are power-ups, then you'd have to defeat them to get items. I guess it would just be about collecting enough items. It wouldn't feel like a broken game. Encourage a player to do something fun. Maybe they haven't done or thought of. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, ideally, they're not like super missable. So if you have a 40-hour long linear game, it's not an hour number 32 and someone skips it and then they're like, I got to play 32 hours again. You know what I mean? What do you mean by bombs? So I got to find a screenshot of this. Something like arrow fighters power-ups. Yeah, so here's a decent example, I think. Oh my God, where's the picture on this page that I'm looking for? Oh, they're on the left side. Yeah, this one. Okay, so in this picture, you got some enemy helicopters, and you got these P. These are power-ups for your gun, and then you could find like bomb drops as well. But anyway, my idea was that enemies, when you touch them, would actually give you a power-up, and these things would actually hurt you. So part of the gimmick of this game would be figuring out that that's even the case. You're like, oh, finally a power-up, and you go try to collect it, and it hurts you. And you're like, what? Like, how am I supposed to power up? And then you touch an enemy, and you're like, oh, okay. So that's how this game would be broken, but that's not the only way we could do that. And I was thinking, when you destroy the ships, you get loot. And the loot is from this pack that we have. So like where'd it go? Yeah, you're getting like, I don't know, you're getting like rupees and armor items and probably weapons. We have a bunch of weapons in here, right? It's like we have no need for these otherwise. Yeah, look at this. You could get a ton of these things. We could drop like swords and axes and stuff. And I like how incongruous this is between, you're in a space shooter game and they're dropping like hammers and swords and stuff because you have to pay back a sentient treasure chest because you broke their dungeon. It's like there are so many good ideas in just this section of the game. I really, really like it. Yeah, I really, really like it. And remember, this whole time you are an archer in space just shooting arrows. Like your sense of propulsion makes no sense because you don't have a spaceship. So dodge the bullets and power-ups and hit the ships. Yes. Yeah. And as you destroy the ships, they burst into these items, which you would be able to collect. But the things that look like they'd normally be power-ups, you're not able to collect. So yeah, I think that's what we're going to do. Yeah, so here's what I'm leaning toward. Space shooter power-ups. Maybe there are no power-ups? Hang on a second, let me think about this. Because I need to differentiate between the loot you're able to get, like shields and stuff, and the loot you're not able to get, like the missiles or whatever else. Also, the ship the mimic gives you needs to be colorized according to you. And then you got to enter the architect. Oh, but then it can't explode. Oh, no. Oh, I really, really want you to enter the architect's realm as a spaceship. Wouldn't be able to enter the architect's realm as a spaceship, which I've always wanted. Do you shoot arrows backward for acceleration? No. Figure out that they're supposed to touch the enemies, not the power-ups. What we could do is we could have like dive bombing enemies that eventually just like make you realize it. Because yeah, I'm not sure either. Is it going to be a challenge for players to figure out how to get actual power-ups? We could force this, like you don't do enough damage to ships at first, and there's only so much you can do. Hey, sadistic. Getting shoot 'em up vibes. I mean, it is in that genre, but it's going to be very different in how it plays out. Yeah. The other thing too is we could have the power-ups. You get the space shooter stuff. So you start firing missiles from your bow. Well, I don't know what else you would use. I guess it's just missiles. Maybe better to have you firing volley after volley of arrows, though. Because I think the problem is if we have this be just like a regular space shooter, there are enemies, you destroy them, they drop power up sometimes, you get stronger, you're collecting more and more loot. It wouldn't feel too different from a lot of the other games. This gimmick of the enemies being the power ups makes it much more broken. I mean, you've already gone through a lot of brokenness to get here. The other question I have is like, how do you enter the Architect's realm as a spaceship? I think blowing up makes sense since you can't pilot your ship. And then any input you press would highlight the first one red and shake it and play a bonk sound, indicating that you haven't pressed the right key. Yeah, the picture of the cat, like it should obviously be a thing you can't do at first. Then you wouldn't have a ship. Maybe you respawn as the ship anyway. All right, anyway, so what I'm leaning toward, I wanted to sum everything up so far. So like you enter space. Does the mimic just catch up to you immediately? You would have like rocketed off there. So maybe you actually get to play the game a little bit. Or maybe like one life of it. You launch into space using the high jump boots. Maybe the screen rotates so that you see the side view so that your graphics make sense. The mimic would hear the crash and chase after you. If they don't do it immediately, you might not realize. So there are a couple ways it could work. One is you enter space, you blow through the dungeon, you enter space, and you have some like small round of trying to fight enemies that you just cannot damage. And then the mimic comes up to you and says like, whoa, you just destroyed my dungeon. That's going to cost a lot of money. You are going to get me that money. Where is that? Maybe they give you missiles at this point. They wouldn't give you something though. No, I don't think so. So does it make more sense to have a delay? Should you be able to play for a bit in space before the mimic catches up to you? Maybe you realize that your attacks are ineffective. And the mimic gives you some clue or an ability that will let you destroy things. It belongs in the dungeon angle. Like as a quote or thematically? Also, an ad is going to start pretty soon. I should take a break. I think we're on the right track here, though. I also think what's kind of nice is like, because I'm spending time on some of these bigger ideas, it's like each section of the game will have one of these big ideas playing through it and a bunch of smaller supporting ideas. Anyway, is it jump time? I'll be back in a little bit. It's jump time. Hey, Zomboid Raimu. Close the game. Okay. So yeah, we left off here. Should you be able to play in space for a bit? I think that by delaying things, you may sort of lose the impact from this angry mimic catching up to you. And then it helps you fly to space. Well, I wanted the high jump boots to be how you got into space. Maybe the the high jump boots are how you get into space. Maybe the mimic realizes that you're trapped here and gives you a ship. Maybe they become a ship and then give you your own ship afterward. I don't love that idea, I guess. Like the joke about you not being able to pilot your ship, there could always be a quick time event at the end anyway. Like you destroyed the boss and now the planet's exploding and you need to get away. But I think having it be the first time you get into a ship makes more sense because then it would make sense that you don't know how to control it. I think it'd be funny if you land in a spaceship. So part of what I want is for the spaceship to be you. I guess it's different if you're in the spaceship. Then it wouldn't have your colors, right? Maybe the mimic turns you into a spaceship. Okay, that could work. The mimic turns you into a spaceship. Rationale. You would then get your colors as a spaceship. You would presumably respawn somewhere if you die. Yeah. Hey, PG King. On a crazy ride that breaks the game and lands you back in the Arctic realm. Yeah, I was thinking that the crazy ride part would be that you just explode. And you pretty much like wake up back in the Arctic realm. I guess you still wouldn't really be able to control the ship. In fact, you know what? That would be kind of interesting. You still wouldn't know how to control the ship. So when you get to the Architect's realm, we need the controls to be somewhat confusing. This would be one of the only puzzles within the Architect's realm. So here's what I'm thinking. You know, if you think of like what's the most straightforward controls you could have, it's probably like WASD to move in that direction immediately. Okay, so now like how do we abstract this and make this harder and harder? So like maybe the next most straightforward is A and D control your, I'm just gonna say your bearing, and then like W thrusts in that direction. And then next most straightforward is something like you control each thruster individually. So like A rotates your ship right, D rotates it left, press both at once to move forward. We want to go another like 3 levels down to something that is not straightforward. So, you know, dot, 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 dot. And then we want this level. So not straightforward, but still somehow like still distantly logical. I don't know what this is, but like QWOP controls basically. Yeah, you control your thighs and calves. I never could make sense of this. I mean, that's kind of the joke of the game, I guess. But what would these controls be? And it made me, I thought of like polar coordinates. I don't know if we could do something along these lines. Maybe there's just a bunch of meters on screen and you have to figure out what's going on. Shoot a bomb that propels you. Yeah, that could potentially work. Put this over here. So how do we come up with a way to move inside the architect's realm that is confusing but still somehow manageable? Shoot a bomb to propel you. Maybe you have to move your hand over. Yeah, but if you have a controller, we still need to make it work. Like, this is a controller first game. We could randomize your controls. So, like, up moves in a random direction. Left moves in a random direction, etc. These directions can change every so often. Maybe there's a UI element indicating your, what would this be? Your like engine orientation. It's normally nonsensical, but it does have some control over which direction is which. Controls like jumper, yeah. Alternatively, we could have a bunch of, there could be a bunch of UI elements you need to figure out. So like when bar 1 is filled, the confirm button will move you forward. When the circular gauge is halfway, I don't know, yeah, whatever, something like this. Yeah, Arasaka. Up is the left stick, down is the right stick, right is the D-pad, and left is the buttons. Yeah, it's another thing we can do is just we could sort of randomly pick the controls. So like A tilts right, L tilts, or L moves forward and to the left, and like down on the D-pad does something. I like the golf meter idea. As in, like, you have to stop a slider for how far you want to go. Maybe I'm not understanding the idea exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Could be that a bar slowly fills after you lock in your direction. And it controls how far you'll move. Is it cold? No, it's not cold. I'm in Washington State. Kind of like the idea of the controls changing, like the architect is glitching out and issuing new tutorial instructions every so often. Well, this in particular is not the architect controlling this. This is just you don't know how to pilot a plane. And we need to make it funny and a little bit frustrating. Yeah, okay. I kind of like what TJ said. I think this kind of combines everything. But not necessarily with the D-pad up. It's that we use the tank controls. So you have different thrusters, but they die down at different speeds, maybe. The thrusters die down at different speeds. And different buttons control left versus right. Yeah. Hey, Alexium. Hey, Shawarma. You actually make that sidebar auto hide through Chrome flags if you want more screen space. I'm torn on that because I have, at any given time when I'm streaming, 2 browser windows open. The one on my monitor over here just has chat, and I'd love for this one to auto hide. But this one has all my tabs I'm actually using, and I don't think I want this to auto hide. Maybe if you switch tabs, if it shows up again, then I think I probably would want that. So I'll write that down. So yeah, thank you. See if auto hiding makes it show when I use the tab shifting hotkeys. Yeah, welcome to the stream. Not Washington, D.C., Washington State. They're two different places. If you're not from the U.S., it's a little confusing. But Washington State is at the northwestern part of the country, continental part of the country, I mean. If you try to angle to the left, you just spin in a circle. Well, in this case, you're in the architect's realm, but whatever physics we use could just be as though you're in space. Yeah. So I think I like this idea. Thrusters die down at different speeds. So I'm picturing that you press the left thruster button and it makes your character, yeah, just spin in a circle basically. So now you need to up the right thruster, but maybe it doesn't activate as quickly. It doesn't need to be complex. I guess the whole point is like, look, this is tough to fly. How close am I to the White House? Opposite side of the country. So yeah, two totally different places. Okay, I like this idea. So then you work your way into, oh, and you know what would be really funny? When you're in the architect's office, you could just be spinning in a circle in place. Oh my God. Yeah. All right, so we got to back up now. So you blow up to get here? Is that what we're saying? Man, they're like, this is gonna be very, very crazy to make all of this. It's gonna take like a month, but I think it'll be a lot of fun. Yeah. Wadasaka, I suggest just doing a Google search. Yeah. I think it'll clarify this. All right. So did I say you blow up here? Hey, let me read this. I think the important part was that they turn you into a spaceship. Hey, Sound. Welcome back. You get your own colors, you presumably respawn somewhere if you die, and you wouldn't know how to control yourself as a spaceship. Yeah, I like that idea. You guess how many more games does Miyazaki have left? Which Miyazaki are we talking about? This Miyazaki. I don't know. I haven't been following their career at all. Yeah. Let me take a quick look. Is there a games page? Yeah, here it is. Yeah, I played, I think, Dark Souls for about half an hour. It's not even that I disliked it. And I mean, what I know about all of these games is that they've all done pretty well. I haven't heard of this one. So, yeah. I also kind of wonder, you know, how long do people want to do this for? Because it comes down to how long can you do it for? And then how long do you want to do it for? Oops. And this is something I've always been kind of thinking about too. It's like when Cakes rated earlier, I asked, do you feel like game dev is a grind? I think game dev is grindy. That's not the same as feeling like a grind. But yeah, it is grindy from time to time. There's like a lot you have to work on. You are chiseling out a game from marble. And I guess when it feels like a grind, maybe it's just, I don't know, time to take a break. Yeah. Hey, Flores. Super Smash Bros. In his 90s. Oh, man. Yeah. Like, that's the kind of thing I wonder about. This always reminds me of Good Will Hunting. Like, you have some extreme capability to do something, but you don't actually want to. Like, should you do it? you know, what happens when Sakurai stops making Smash Bros. And someone else picks it up, and then they're like, well, that's when the game started going downhill. And yeah. All right, there are a whole lot of ideas I'm gonna have to extract out of this. So we talked about blowing up, you respawn in the Architect's Realm, you still don't know how to pilot your ship. All that's fine. I have not talked about the gameplay when you're in the space shooter. That's the last bit that we need. So this makes the game broken. And it also gives you a reason to destroy ships and to not destroy them. So like destroying them gives you loot for the Mimic. By the way, another question is like, is the Mimic following you the whole time and eating loot? If so, we could have a money meter as soon as you collect something. They wouldn't do the work themselves, though. The work of destroying ships. They couldn't say that you overpaid them this way either. You're just flying forever until you collect enough loot. You're just flying forever until you collect enough loot. Maybe you occasionally find bosses, but you can just collect them too. That's pretty funny. Maybe it's just a grind once your goals are higher than your passion. I think you can work in both directions. Hang on, let me just cough. I think it can work in both directions. I think if you asked me, like, go make Pong for the rest of your life, this would be like the grindiest thing I could imagine. And it's not that the goals are higher than my passion. It's that the goal is actually sort of beneath the level that I want to work at. And I think so. I think it'd feel grindy in either direction. If you are a brand new programmer and you're trying to make like a World of Warcraft, yeah, it'd probably feel super grindy. You'd be like, I don't know what I'm doing. And if you were someone who's made 400 games and you're like, okay, go make Pong. I mean, not just Pong. Imagine something that takes you longer than an hour to make, and you're doing it over and over and over and over. You'd be like, wow, that's also super grindy. So yeah, I think that's part of it. I think a lot of gaming, there's a lot of just boilerplate stuff. It's like, oh, hey, we need an inventory screen. Well, that's going to be the millionth inventory screen you make in your game dev career. Or maybe not inventory screen, maybe like a settings screen. Like every game needs a settings screen. And they're not fun to make. Maybe you have fun designing the UI. Maybe there's something custom about it. But otherwise, it's like, hey, you got to control your video settings. You got to control your audio settings. There's nothing creative about that stuff, right? Maybe you have like key rebinding. You got some like subtitle controls or something. So I think that's part of when it feels like a grind too. And I guess what I was kind of saying from Skeleseller, the whole biggest lesson that I had was don't save the bad stuff for the end, because then you're doing it all at once. But that bad stuff is what made it grindy. So now what I'm doing is I'm taking a 3-month grind at the end and sprinkling it throughout and saying like, here's 2 days of grinding and here's 3 days of grinding. And maybe that's what's happening right now. It's tight. What would you figure is entry salary for working at FromSoft? Just a soft guess on your half. I don't ever know. I would go to something like Glassdoor, or what's the site that's got all the... Yeah, I think it's Glassdoor. Did they stop you from just searching this anymore? Salaries. Oh, I think you have to sign in now. Yeah, okay, I can't check this. Yeah, I would just do some searching online. I don't even have a guess. Game development has to be some of the longest projects. Epson drawing a net fighter jet. Well, I think game dev is all over the place in terms of project length, because game jams are very popular. And I think they're increasing in popularity. It feels like there's some larger game jams and content creators are running them. But game jams are typically in the order of like 1 to 14 days. That is very fast to complete something. It's like complete anything, along a hobby. It's like my wife is into knitting. Some of her projects are spanning months, but nothing has spanned years. So yeah, games could span years. Games could also be like a day long. Build stuff to be portable between games. Yeah, yeah. We had to manually go through each resolution if you go too fast. Yeah, I never understood that. Like, try to detect it from my monitor, but then show me a grid or something like that. Or yeah, just got bought by Indeed. Yeah. Keep rebuilding Pong until you have a game like Rocket League. Rocket Pong. There was a game called Plasma Pong a while ago. It was just Pong, but with this like crazy visual effect. It was very cool. But yeah, it was just Pong in terms of gameplay. So if there was no plasma, you'd be like, I've played this game a million times before. At least I think so. Maybe there was some effect where the plasma could affect the ball or something. Yeah, very cool. What would you say might be a casual or consumer ready as games that take near the same length? I mean, any other massive like creative endeavor, a novel, a movie, a TV show, these are all very similar. In fact, the only real difference between some of these, like what's the difference between a TV show versus a game? It's like interactivity, right? Or a movie, either one of these. So yeah, if you were making like you could imagine God of War as a movie, right? Or The Last of Us as a movie. It wouldn't be too hard. You can imagine Mario Galaxy as a movie. I actually started watching Mario Galaxy. I like it so far. I don't know how many minutes in I am, maybe like 20 minutes, but it's a cutesy movie. There's a lot of like Mario references and Easter eggs. I don't know if it did well, but I'm liking it. I wonder if I'll like the Zelda movie. Anyway, coming back to this. So, yeah, I think there's kind of a trade-off here. I think we should probably try this idea and just see what happens. But yeah, where enemies you actually collect and you get power-ups from them. I wonder what the power-ups would be, though. I think that's the last question we need to answer. Destroying them would give you loot, though. Yeah, this is great. Yep. Destroying them gives you loot for the mimic, but collecting them gives you increased power in some way. This tension would make the game fun, even if it's not such a massive decision that you make. A game probably stays in the concept phase much longer. I can't really comment on movies. I don't know how that works. I know that people write a script and then there's casting and then there's a whole lot of like, yeah, shooting and editing and. But yeah, how long does it stay in the script phase? Like, what do they do for mock-ups of scenes? How do they storyboard it? There's probably a lot of planning that goes into that too. And then I think there's the increased difficulty of a movie. Most movies, I guess not every movie, takes place in real life to some extent. So like a Pixar movie does not. You don't need to recreate Toy Story. But like The Matrix, even though it was a fantasy world, they made a lot of practical effects and those were not cheap from what I read. They needed like warehouses that they could, destroy stuff or launch someone with a rope up to some other level. And yeah, it's like that probably takes a ton of expertise to even figure out how do we convincingly do this. And you read about this a lot too. It's like Lord of the Rings had characters of very different heights. So like hobbits were supposed to be, I don't know, like 4 feet tall or something. And Gandalf's like, he's not really a human, but he's like human height. And I always thought, oh, this is something that's got to be very easy to do with digital effect, but they try not doing it digitally. So they like have a camera and a cutaway scene and they film someone closer to the camera and farther away. And yeah, even that, like I wouldn't know how to do this. Or like I said, I wouldn't know how to do it convincingly. So yeah, I don't think it's probably fair to say that video games are longer in the concept phase. Probably movies take a lot of time too. Quite a bit of practical effects. Looks very cool. Yeah. Yeah, I just saw the Odyssey. I was a little bit torn, but I think the ending of the movie was really good. I think part of what stuck with me when I was watching that movie is it was just too loud. And I think from what I read online, there were a lot of complaints. Apparently it's a theater thing and not necessarily a movie thing. But I had to like plug my ears in the theater for at least 2 scenes that lasted for too long with like maximum sound blaring. I was like, they're killing me. They're literally killing me. They're gonna try to kill me by blasting me with sound waves. Correct course or redirect once started has to be in one aspect or the other. Well, this is, I mean, any endeavor where you're slowly building up something, you start cheaply and then get more expensive. And what I mean by this is like, let's say you're making a game. You don't just start by going in and paying like artists, $10,000 and say, okay, give me the art. You start by like doing game design and outlining mechanics and then prototyping and at each phase you're doing things a little bit more cheaply than you would in later phases. So a prototype is fast to do. You can throw it all away at the end. I imagine something like that probably happens with movies too, although I don't know exactly how. Maybe they do like test shots or I don't know, get some like digital mock-up of what they're going to do in real life, something like that. Like I said, I'm pretty ignorant when it comes to how movies are made. But yeah, so it is, I think for any endeavor that you get close to the end, it's going to be much harder to pivot. It's the same thing with like if you were making a building in real life. It's like you start constructing the 37th floor and you're like, whoops, we messed up on the 12th floor. It's like, yeah, it's going to be really hard to fix that. Knock down the building or something. So just make sure you're planning ahead and double checking everything. Your ears are supposed to go on an odyssey. Yeah, my ears went through an epic journey. The different challenges in games versus movies. Explosions are really expensive in movies, really cheap in games. Have a character eat some bread is really cheap in movies and really difficult in games. Yeah, doors are really, really difficult in games. Doors are probably dead simple in movies. Yeah, I think it was a theater thing then. Okay. Thought 5 years was literal development time. I don't know. Yeah, some games, some movies probably do take 5 years to make. Some probably are in concept for a while and they're kind of getting like small nudges throughout. Like I think Tears of the Kingdom took something like 6 years to make. Tears of the Kingdom time to make. Long development time, 6 year development time. Yeah. I don't know how much of that was like we're going full throttle, we're working with a skeleton crew. Yeah, I don't know about that. Hey, Rylan. Planning must be ugly. It's kind of like a sketch of the finished artwork. I guess it's in the eye of the beholder. Okay. Have we answered everything? I think we've answered pretty much everything. No, we have not answered what are the power-ups. Yeah, so that's the last thing we got to figure out. And then we got to put all this together. What are the power-ups? And I talked about this earlier about like bombs and stuff. You get bombs, you get missiles, you get shields, thrusters, health regen, armor, fire rate. And I haven't answered the what happens if you die. Maybe you lose some of your loot. Maybe you have a literal like power meter. And the more enemies you collect, the more powerful you are in general. That concept pretty much exists in a lot of different space shooters. You have different tiers of power level, like you shoot one bullet at a time, then like three, then like a whole screen full of bullets. And if you get hit, you get knocked down a level. I think having a literal power meter on screen, though, might help clarify that power ups are hurting you and enemies are helping you. Yeah, and then there's another question of like, what do we do if this game is too difficult for people? What do we do if this game is too difficult for people? Is this where we start introducing? No, we can't do it. Yeah. Hey, Neverworld. AI has totally changed that. AI has changed what? The development time? I'm not sure what that is referring to. Surprised at how much a building changes from design to finished build. It's wild, at least in terms of run-of-the-mill retail spaces. Yeah. Yeah. I think it's interesting to me. I don't know enough about that sort of thing. Every once in a while, we'll go to a place nearby, just some place like a bakery, not a specific place, and they have the worst interior. I mean, most shops, like here's what I'm picturing here. You got like a rectangle, here's the door. So it swings outward. And then there's like a counter of baked goods. And people line up here and go around the store and then they pay at the end. And it's like, okay, well, now how do you leave? You need to go back over to here people are like crowding the entrance and everything, and just the flow doesn't really work. It's like if they had another door on the other end, you could just leave from there too. And there are a bunch of these, and I assume it's because it's like, well, the building was built a long time ago, and it's probably too expensive to fix it, and now there's just not good traffic control inside the shop. Cow level only for leveling and finding items, and the rest is PvP. I mean, it sounds like, I know you're not asking necessarily for my opinion, but I think just having a cow level for items, you'd be pretty much remaking D2, and you just make more of a PvP focus at the end. And the general problem with any PvP game is you need players, and you generally need lots of players. So I think there are a lot of old games that have some of the community playing it, but sometimes that community steers very experienced. So it becomes sort of toxic to new players joining because they're like, I don't know all these tricks. I don't know what the best builds are. And then they can't compete. So then they get frustrated and they leave. And then the player base starts dying out as a result of that. Is there Lord of the Game? Rylan, are you an AI? I want to ask. Because every time you've come in, you've asked me questions that point to one of two things. Either you're incredibly young or you're AI. And I'm not sure which. And I feel like I might as well just explicitly call this out at this point. Shout out to Soldat. Soldat's a great game. We use AI to fix that. Yeah, you could. Both. A very young AI. You kept that in. Yeah, I don't know if there's a way to see someone's chat history on YouTube, but you can on Twitch. Oh, wait, there's a channel activity button here. What does that do for me? Oh, here we go. Yeah, you can see someone's history. Are we competitors? No, no. You're all working in harmony. All right, so let's start filing some of this away. I don't know if it's slightly premature to do this. But yeah, let's close out of this and this and this and this and get these side by side. Because I want to get all these ideas down. So overview, you enter this segment of the game from the Dagon game. By getting the high jump boots and jumping through the dungeon up into space. Okay, upon arriving in space, a mimic catches up with you and chastises you for destroying their dungeon. They demand compensation. Yeah, so you have to defeat enemy ships to collect like dungeon items, armors, swords, etc. Maybe there's like a debt meter on screen. I should probably write that down. Really asking you questions. It's interesting to me. Yeah, but you've been here for a bunch of days. You've seen that there's lore. You've asked me about this sort of thing. And that's what makes me wonder. All right, I want to write this somewhere here. Just right at the bottom. Could be just that we have a generic power meter and it controls all stats. And when you get hit, it's lowering that meter. So that meter can also be your life. This is how a lot of space shooters work. Well, not a lot. This is how some. Without explicitly saying that. Okay, what else do we have here? Okay, yeah. So this we can delete. This is kind of funny, but we're not going to do this anymore. Okay, so just collecting up all these things that we have. Really confused how that happened. They probably just needed people, and there weren't a lot of applicants. That's my guess. Okay, so we don't need this. We should probably just delete this. Yeah, and originally, so the very first idea I had for this particular sub game was it's a space shooter. You're flying upward and fighting enemies and whatever, but at any time you could just choose to fly downward and just leave the game. We ended up doing that idea of you could just leave the game inside the loot boxes games, and I don't want to repeat it here. This is going to make every future game harder and harder to design. Because imagine if I was like, hey, go make 10 unique games. You'd be like, okay, I'll make a racing game and a card game and a fighting game. And I'm like, okay, now I'm going to go make 10 more unique games. You might be like, okay, I'll make a Vampire Survivors clone and a League of Legends clone and whatever. And I'm like, 10 more, 10 more, 10 more. At some point, you're going to be like, all right, I'm out of ideas. I don't even know what other games I can look at that are different. And whether you hit that when you're 20 games in or 2,000 games in, it's like, it will happen eventually. And I think genre-wise, we're still fine, but mechanics-wise, it's like, how many ways can you leave a game? Yeah. All right, so I want to lump all this stuff in there. So power-ups will probably be based on the graphics we buy, but I think it'll be some combination of these. Maybe we put this here, power-ups. Okay, what else? Do you collect spaceship parts? This ship, or this says upgraded versions. What's the point of getting them? What happens if you die? Would you do if the game is too difficult? So these are still questions that we have. How long and how difficult should this be? How does the game end? Do you want a warp drive? Okay, so I want to give Magnus a point for this. Did I already give you a point, Magnus? Have I given you a point today? Let me search through the history. Yes, I did. Yes. Okay. The game order be linear or randomized? Very likely linear. So I don't see much reason to randomize the game order. The potential reasons would be replayability, maybe some like deviating from what like popular streamers showed on their stream, that sort of thing. Or maybe not randomizing, but could be allowing the player to steer where they want to go first. So if there's some other reason, do let me know, but I don't think it probably accomplishes too much. Well, let's say the order doesn't play into the story. It does to some extent a little bit, but not too much. Is there still some reason to do it? It's like, imagine if, let's say, you're playing like Mario Bros. And there's World 1, World 2, World 3, so on and so forth. And we're like, you know what? Let's scramble these up. Let's always start you with 1 because it's the easiest. But then after that, we can go to like 4, and then 3, and then 5, and then 2. It's like, is there a reason for doing that? There's still going to be the same individual levels once you're there. And in Mario in particular, there's a difficulty curve. So the later ones are harder than the earlier ones. But yeah, I don't think it would meaningfully change the experience. Yeah. You're probably fine being random. But what I'm trying to say is, what's the benefit? Like, what do you think the benefit of randomizing is? Because it's almost like saying, like, if color doesn't matter, we could tint all of the games blue. Why would we do that? So it's like, hey, if the order doesn't matter, we could randomize it. Yes, that's true. I agree. But yeah, why? All right. So hefty repair bill. So we wrote that down. So dialogue ideas, something like this. And yeah, it's a mimic. Dungeon owner. Okay, so upon arriving in space, upon repaying your debt, so the mimic, I'll just copy all this stuff. It turns you into a spaceship. Do you want a primer on how to fly? Player. No thanks. I know what I'm doing. All right. Best of luck then, and thanks for all the loot. Go Deke, thanks for the resub. 5.5 years. Happy 66 months. Painting the levels blue feels like the best representation of bike shedding I've heard. Obviously, it should be done. Splatoon this game. Not much you're going to play them all through the stories anyway. Randomization could help. If you, yeah, okay, so that I could see. Yeah, that would definitely be a benefit. If you only played, let's say, 10 out of 15 games, then randomizing would be interesting. But the purpose of that would probably be for the sake of replayability. So now, like, you replay and see 5 more games. I think so. As a game dev, the thing that I consider with this is, like, it takes me X weeks / months to make a given game. I don't want to make games that people wouldn't see. Because some people are going to beat the game and then be like, oh yeah, this is fine. I'm done now. And it's like, well, what about those other 5 games? And what happens if those 5 games are games they would have liked? Or you could say the opposite of that. What if they're games they wouldn't have liked? Hey, Kyle. Other day, I saw you setting up the Steam, and you did a rough check on how much memory your game is taking. What's the rough ballpark for good numbers in indie? It's just anything that consumer hardware would have been expected to have at like 5 years ago at that mark. I think that's generally what you'd want as an average indie game. Because even AAA games, like, the highest settings maybe target computers from this year or last year, but the medium or low settings should target computers from a while ago. 2D card game that feels too much. Yeah, it all depends on what you're doing, what you're keeping in memory. You might be able to trim it down. I don't think 1.7 is anything to worry about just yet. But if there's some obvious improvements you can make, I would say to look into making those improvements. So maybe you're loading like every single scene at first, or every single sound effect or something. Maybe you want to keep them in like a cache of when you've last used them or when you expect to use them. I think 1.7 gigabytes for a 2D card game does sound like a lot. Like, Hearthstone is kind of a 2D card game, and I imagine for that, there are tons of sounds and visuals and just like anything that might show up in a game, and you don't even know when it will show up. And if I were making a game, I'd probably have it so that like the visuals are cached based on cards we've seen, because they're probably going to show up again. And then once a player gets a card, it loads sounds into memory so that it can like it can play them immediately then once you play the card. But this is all based on like which language you have as well. So yeah, you know, playing with the English client is different from playing in the French client. They're gonna have different voice lines and everything. But this is just based on, you know, some napkin math style design that we have here. Like you always have to try it out and see where the bottlenecks actually are. How many extra levels would you want to make that viable? True. Well, and yeah, how many levels then might go unappreciated? So for example, if you play Super Mario Bros, there are those warp pipes in it. There might be players out there who've never experienced an entire world in that game and have still beaten it. Maybe they've done that a bunch of times, and maybe they're happy with it. Maybe that's okay. I think if you're going to make a collection of a bunch of games though, and there's a path through it, I think the only ones that have be optional would probably be the ones that are hardest difficulty. And even then we could make them more accessible by just lowering the difficulty somehow. New game or new sub game? New sub game, yeah. It's gonna be new sub games until Stuck in a Broken Tutorial is out. And this one is awesome. The ideas that we've had here. In short, and we talked about this a bit, I think yesterday or the day before. In short, you're going to start in... Do I have this open anymore? I don't have this open anymore. You're going to start in something like this, where it is like a platformer, medieval dungeon platformer kind of thing. We're in a theme of like a Metroidvania game. You're going to eventually get the high jump boots. You're going to blast your way through the ceiling because they're very high jump boots and go into space. And that's when a mimic from the dungeon is going to tell you like, hey, you broke my dungeon. You got to pay me back. And now you need to go through the space shooter to earn enough loot to give the mimic to make it back to your own world, basically. And yeah, there's a lot to this game. This is probably going to take at least a month. Probably the biggest endeavor so far. I think it'll be a lot of fun. Okay. All right. So now the game enters a quick time event, but the event uses inputs that you don't have on your controller to maybe there. Why would there be a quick time event at all? I didn't think about this. There's got to be some like reason. Yeah, okay, we got to figure out what's the reason for the quick time event. Is something exploding? Is something chasing you? Yeah. They play some themselves. Hey, Studio Focus, welcome back. I have a strong feeling it's exactly what you said, loading in resources that may or may not be needed. There's most definitely a smarter way for me to handle that. Yeah, and potentially there could also be a way for you to reduce the size of resources in memory. So as an example, we had a bunch of SVG files in Skeleseller, and SVGs themselves are very small. Well, at least they can be very small. So if we look at any of the icons we had, if I just search for SVG here, it's like, here's one of the icons. It's pretty small, right? This is probably like 2 kilobytes or something. The problem is Godot does not have an SVG renderer. It has an SVG rasterizer, and then it renders rasterized sprites. So you need to rasterize them to a particular height and width. So if we had, for example, loaded these in as like 1024 by 1024, they would be quite large if we only ever render them at 128 by 128. So like there's a really easy savings. It's just, well, just don't rasterize them at a large size if you only ever render them at a smaller one. And yeah, sure enough, we did that and we saved a bunch of megabytes off of loading in SVGs. Yeah. How's it doing? I think it's doing like okay. I take a look every once in a while at how many people are playing. There's a chart that anyone can go look at. Charts, Skeleseller. Where is this? Yeah, here. And like right now there are 15 players. given the length of the game, this usually means that like a lot of those are probably recent sales. And yeah, if you look at the last month or so, it's been pretty steady around like 15 to 25 maybe. So that's not too bad. Can't build a manual out of scrap. Should figure out how to turn on. Well, I still, if you have any ideas for like why do you need to quickly get away? Because I really, really like this idea of having a quick time event that's not ever doable. But I don't know why there is a quick time event. Where did that other browser window go? Here. Yeah. Am I happy with the sales? Yeah, I think so. It's not like a, retire off this game kind of thing, and it's also not minimum wage. I the way I kind of talk about this is, and no matter how much money the game made, this is how this would always have been. I worked for 2 years, almost exactly 2 years of work. And during that time, my income was like Twitch and YouTube. And I've already kind of shared this, but Twitch, I make like, I don't know, $3,000 a year or something like that. It's not very much. So for 2 years, I'm making almost no money. And now currently the income is only from Skeleseller. So it's like if Stuck in a Broken Tutorial takes 2 years and tanks, then Skeleseller is the only real income for 4 years. Actually, not even 4 years. It'd be like 6 years at that point or something. Because it'd be like the 2 I made Skeleseller, the 2 I make Stuck in a Broken Tutorial, and then however long, I guess just 4 plus X years, however long it takes to make the next game. So that's what's kind of rough about game dev. I mean, this is kind of rough about doing any kind of business, but these are like long-term projects too. So yeah, I'm happy enough with how it did. And I think it'll still make some money. Like, yeah, maybe some small percentage of what it's already made over the next year. You could theme the other spaceship's color schemes around the consoles you're taking the broken inputs from. Yeah, I do think that'd be a lot of work. But also, I don't think there would be other ships at the time. You made more than Twitch and YouTube, at least with Skelisar. Oh, yeah. Yeah, like I said, that was more than minimum wage. Minimum wage here is like $40,000 a year or something like that. So yes, I made more than $80,000 from Skeleseller. I haven't shared how much I've made more than that, but yeah, it's more than that. So that's at least been, I mean, it's good that it made it's good that it crossed minimum wage. Because the reason why I kept using that as a comparison is, and I want to keep prefacing this with, I do not say this derogatorily, but like I could have just worked at McDonald's for 2 years and made more money than, pouring my heart into a game. And that would have been a little disappointing for me, because it's like, man, if I haven't learned enough from Botland, from all the game dev, from all the software development experience I have, that doesn't necessarily make you good at business. And I certainly could have made better decisions if I wanted to maximize profit. But I didn't care too much about that. But anyway, hi, weird dudes, and hi, Muro. Yeah, it is a reality. I've been thinking about this a lot too lately, that almost any endeavor has at least two viewpoints: the endeavor itself, or like something around the endeavor itself, and then the business side of things. So let's say you're making pies. You might just like making pies. You might like when your friends get pies from you and sharing that. You might like selling pies. Well, if all you like is selling pies, then it kind of takes the art and the creativity out of selling the pies. And I look around at other game devs, and I think there's everyone all along the spectrum of what they're looking for, in terms of, some people are just making it for fun. They never even want to complete the game. Some people want to complete the game just to say that they completed the game. Some people are only doing it for money. Some people are doing anything in between. And the ones who are doing it just for money, you can kind of see it sometimes. And I feel like the spectrum is kind of like this, but not entirely. It's like you pick either creativity or maximizing money. It's like I've always kind of been on the creativity side of things. But yeah, if I were making my 10th game, maybe I feel differently about it. Maybe, I don't know, maybe something changes. Just add nano transactions. Just take a pico penny for everything. All right, so this is pretty good. Yeah, so there's tension. So this is still the case. Could be a challenge. We could force this. How do you enter the architect's realm? So then, yeah, this is dialogue, ideas, flow. After getting to the architect's realm, we have a small puzzle for how to even fly since you still never learned. You enter as your archer graphic, right? You are still playing as your archer graphic. Missiles, maybe these replace your arrows. Actually, you know what? You could use your like fantasy bombs. Maybe we use the fantasy bombs from the Dagon pack and not space shooter bombs. It's done. New game time. Hey, Matt. Thought about finding a publisher. Yeah, I've thought about it. I'm very torn. It's one of those things where if you could jump into the future and know, yes, the publisher would work out for you, it's like, yeah, I might do that. If you could present me with a future of you're like, okay, I'll make X dollars if you publish on your own. You make Y dollars if you publish with someone's help. And Y is equal to like 5 times X or something like that. You'd be like, yeah, okay, cool. That would probably work out. And if there's no concerns about your IP or maintaining rights, but sometimes you'll get a publisher and they'll do almost nothing for you. And you'll make less money and you won't have the reach that you thought you had. And you might have some like contract woes or I don't want to deal with that headache. So to me, it's not just like, well, might I make more money? It's how much of a headache will this incur? Well, how will my work change? I was just telling my wife this morning that like I love not working for someone else. And I feel like I'd feel shackled if I have a publisher. But good publishers, you probably don't feel that way, and I'll just never find out. Who knows? You look at the money side. Yeah. Yeah. And it's something that I want to get a little bit better at without kind of losing sight of things. Because as mentioned, I could have made the games that I've made very differently and tried to maximize money. And I'm like trying not to do that. I'm trying to make sure they're just fun games that people enjoy. So I think it's like finding the intersection of what fits into those principles for me and can still make money. And I don't even know what I do. If Skeletor had made like $50 million, like would I be making some AAA super game 3D state of the art? I don't know. Probably not. Yeah. Yeah, that's the one exception I'd probably be okay with, Muro, is someone who's like, hey, I'll publish in China for you that I otherwise never would have published there. Like, yeah, that could potentially work. Do they set goals and deadlines? Like a publisher? A publisher can potentially do almost anything. They could just provide resources. They could provide like localization. They could give you input on how you're supposed to make your game or what will do well in the current market. They could advertise for you. They could market themselves. And you'll have a contract for what services you want them to provide, and they'll charge you for those services. So do they set goals and deadlines? Like they might. They typically put money into your game, so they care about the result, that return on investment. Yeah, it is difficult. It's like I think part of how Skeletor did well is I made some TikTok posts in like a week leading up to it, and some of those did pretty well. And I don't say this to diminish the Cakes' work, but he made Tangy TD, and he had a post go like super viral on the internet. Like I think some of my own family members were like, "Hey, yeah, actually, yeah, that did happen." I had some family members send me that video and say like, "Oh, check this out," and I'm like, "I know Cakes, like I've played his game." And that kind of marketing is super valuable. Like, yeah. And I think it was sincere. I'm not trying to paint a different picture here. I think he just had a touching moment with his wife and the internet loved it. And yeah, that's great. So yeah, if you can get something like that to happen, and I'm not saying manufacture a situation, but just if your own vlogs take off, if your own marketing materials are doing well, it's probably way better than hiring someone else to do it. All right, what have I not written from over here? Yeah, this is another idea, like UI stuff. After launching into space, we could rotate the screen so that you're moving left to right. So in general, I want you to have to control a left and right thruster, but changing the power uses different buttons, which we could even randomize. And the power of the thrusters changes. The power of each thruster may diminish or increase at different rates. Maybe the right thruster increases quickly and decreases slowly, and the left one is the opposite. It's just a small puzzle, and players should eventually figure out how to move forward. Okay, what else do we have here? And then, yeah, after getting into the office, your ship should just be spinning in place. All right, UI idea, where is that? There could be a debt/money meter on the screen. The mimic themselves could be flying alongside you as a like a supervisor, eating any loot you find. Is it stupid to suggest a game I played a long time ago? Maybe helpful or maybe inspire you for new ideas. So sorry, I did not see your message until now. I don't tend to play other games that are similar to mine, anything I'm working on, so that I don't get influenced by them. So yeah, you could suggest something and like maybe I'd go look at the Steam page, for example, but I wouldn't look at videos or I wouldn't download the game. And yeah, this goes back to like, I don't know, 11 years ago when I started Botland. There's another game called Gladia Bots. And I think they actually did pretty well. My game did not do well. I never looked at like how did they manage things. I just looked at these screenshots and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. But yeah, I never tried the game. I never downloaded it. Same thing with Skeleseller. I didn't go play like people were talking about Recettear. I just looked at the Steam page and I'm like, okay, nice. Yeah. Because I talked about this earlier with the creativity and monetization. Like I want my ideas to come out somehow. And I'm of course influenced by other games I've played, videos I've seen, and people in chat who are giving me ideas too. But I don't want to like ask AI, hey, I'm trying to make a game. What should this look like? Oh, Spore I've heard of. Yeah. Oh, would there be fuel consumption? No, probably not fuel consumption for this game. Especially because when you enter the space shooter part of this, you are an archer. So you don't actually need fuel unless you consider food, I guess. Did amazingly well for a handful of nerds. I think it was a financial failure. No, I don't think it was. It was a financial failure. But it wasn't an overall failure. I learned a lot from it. Okay, yeah. It could be that you just have a generic power meter that controls your bullet strength, fire rate, number of bullets, etc. Getting hit could deplete this meter. Dying could play your death animation respawning. Yeah. Where's my Eve? She's somewhere in a 5-mile radius in it. I think we've copied everything over here. I want to make sure that I had just compiled this list. Yeah. Oh yeah, you find bosses. I didn't write that down. Upon playing, you fight enemies, find power-ups. For loot, absorb them for power-ups, find fake power-ups, and eventually encounter bosses, which you can also absorb. And there was something else I wanted to write here. What was it? Something I just talked about. It's on the screen over here somewhere. Oh, the bosses thing. I did write that down. Yeah. All right, so we have some questions we still need to answer. I was asking me questions for fuzzy areas, asking me to define the different genres I'm going for. Yeah, I think really it is the smart thing to do now. Well, it was always a smart thing to do market research, but using AI to help you with the market research, I think is good. So I do think I could benefit from it. I'm just trying not to. Teleport back, heal, repeat. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if Botland had been successful. I don't know what it would have looked like after a month or two. Like, would defenses have just been impenetrable? Would there be some like strategy on offense that I need to nerf? Like, what am I doing to manage the game? I think I was just kind of in over my head in general with that. And I don't know if it would have ever been a fun single player game. Probably not. Yeah. Still be balancing it. Maybe. I mean, yeah, maybe. Oh yeah, Nomad. I remember Boss Nomad. Is Botland still runnable or you just archived everything? Hey, Spambot. So it's currently in the process of being open sourced by someone named Eltman. But Eltman has a lot of priorities, and I think Botland is pretty low on the list. So he last quoted me that it would be done in 2026, but I don't know how likely that is. And honestly, at this point, I could probably just give it to AI and say, like, just remove all the private stuff from this and put it online. But yeah, he wanted to host it and modernize it a little bit. And so yeah, it's not playable anymore. Been a while, just under different usernames. Yeah, nice. Nice. I mean, it says you've been following since 2016. So yeah. Wow. It's a long time. You've seen a lot of different games over here, I guess. All right, so the only other things that we have left to do are answer these questions. It's getting pretty close to lunchtime. So maybe we'll do this after lunch. Yeah, more game design. I also wanted to do a retrospective on this. So afternoon should be answer the questions for the new mega sub game. Sidekick in space. And I wrote down that you enter first as sidekick, right? I better have. Otherwise, I don't know what I'm doing here. Where is this at here? Yeah, nice. Okay, I did. All right, so answer the questions for that, and then do a retrospective on this stabilization phase. And fill out the journal. Yeah. Twitch integration. I think I want to make another Twitch stream game at some point. I had some ideas, and I bought like 1 million asset packs now, so I could just use them for that. Yeah. Yeah, so I'm gonna just ramble for a little bit longer and then go get my lunch. But all in all, this has been super cool to build this stuff out. I'm still happy to be working on games in general, and specifically this game. Like, I'm still hyped about it, and I think part of the reason why I've been this hyped about it is because we just keep doing new cool stuff. Like, eventually this list of changing games is going to be so big that it's going to be cumbersome, and we're going to need to come up with a better UI, like a radial menu or something. But yeah, there's been a lot in the game. There have been a lot of little improvements too. For people who haven't seen it, it's like we have save slots now. The save slots show the character from where you last left off. We have control rebinding. It's like some of this is not super exciting stuff, but it's still nice to have. We have proper controller glyphs in here. We got a bunch of new little effects and things that I've added and little touches that we've put into the games. So yeah. Yeah, I think the polish has been pretty important. And by the way, Dark, I have not merged this yet. Dark made the world for the loot boxes game. So like this looks a lot better. I think there's some things I want to clean up here. And I kind of wanted to add some of the buildings from Skeleseller maybe. But yeah. You do. Oh man. All right, well, an ad's about to start. And like I said, I'm gonna get my lunch anyway. So I'll be back in about an hour, hour and a half, something like that. We'll keep doing game design this afternoon. It's been a great day so far. Even the last time we did game design has been good. The time before that was not so good. We need a Skele Easter egg shopper. Maybe. Actually, I didn't think about that. Yeah, I don't think I even write this down. We could have the skeleton himself come over and buy stuff. And maybe leave through the portal indicating that they were an agent. Okay. All right. Take care, everyone. Thank you for watching. I'll be back in about an hour, hour and a half, like I said. If you want to join Discord, there is the link. I will see you next time.